Today's Tuesday, July 3rd. It's the day before a major holiday here in the U.S.
The most important holiday in the entire world.
Oh, I have
Or
American
history.
flags. We have those flags. We should bring them in here and do a whole thing because USA.
Oh, we hear a lot of complaints from people that are not from America that are like, I can't follow this. It's all American news. It's like, well, no.
Hey, listen, admit it. Half to 3/4 of the shows you watch, come on, they're from America.
It's definitely also the case that whatever bad policy we implement here is coming to the rest of the world, with a possible exception of Australia.
I think the EU's ahead of us at this point.
Maybe. California is really racing to catch up, though. They've got this new data privacy law that's the toughest in the U.S.
Well, toughest, but not quite as tough as what almost passed last fall.
Yeah, they sort of admit, and who was this article? CNET. They passed this one because the one that the billionaire was proposing was way worse in terms. No, I don't know if the word worse is good there.
Better for us, worse for telecom.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So they kind of were like, "Ooh, let's not ever let that even go to a vote. Let's just push this through." But it's okay. It's got some
something.
protection. It's very GDPR-ish.
The subtle difference in this privacy law versus a lot of other privacy laws is that it seems to say that you can still have a relationship with companies. You can just ask the company not to do anything with your data and or to disclose a list of third parties that have handled your data or that they have sold your data to. And that is sort of the difference. Because I think with GDPR, a lot of companies are taking the position, just don't do business with us and we're not going to collect your data. But with this privacy law, it seems like you can still do business with the company. You can just ask the company not to do anything with your data.
That's going to be, if it's retroactive, which it might be, can you imagine all the reporters who are going to have scathing articles about, this is the horrible companies that Facebook sold my data to?
Well, Facebook was a big supporter of this bill, it mentions in the article.
Well, again, because I think, it's this like staunch the bleeding time.
Yeah, they're trying to look better than maybe they really are.
We've got kind of a follow-up. Remember that lady that got hundreds of calls from Time Warner and she took them to court and won? Well, bad news for her. The court has thrown out the Time Warner cable penalty of $229,500. The federal appeals court has basically sided with Time Warner. And it's like, Time Warner's like, we don't know if we constitute what is a robo-dialer in terms of dialing this woman over and over again.
How many? It was
75 after the lawsuit began.
Yeah, like even after she sued him, it continued. And you wonder, was that spite or just no one caring?
Maybe they put a whole wing of like a call center. They're like, call this lady incessantly.
She tried to quit, and they said, don't you quit us.
Surely she should have some remedy under the law. I mean, come on.
If this were a confused young man calling her about a relationship, he would be in jail right now.
Yeah, this would be harassment.
Yeah, for sure.
So is this the case totally over? Because I would think that with an appeal like this, it's totally over. But the language here seems to suggest that the lower courts need to figure out if they're a robo-dialer.
Right, yeah, he left it up for somebody else to decide. Basically, he threw away, because they awarded her 4 times the average penalty because it was like aggravated or something. And he says that's not okay, and we must determine if they're robocallers. So, you wonder if maybe somebody got to him, because he was like, well, I can't throw it out. That's too far. But for this amount of money, I'll kick it back.
Wow. If that lady was smart, she would go to them and say, it's like, look, for $100,000, I'll just settle it right now. Because they probably take that because lawyers are expensive.
Well, they've already paid the judge.
Well,
her lawyer was not reached for comment, according to that article. So
she also might not be answering numbers from them.
NPR's got a follow-up on our story last week about Amazon selling face recognition software and Amazon employees sort of saying, hey, why are we selling...
Shareholders.
That
was the shareholders.
Well, I thought shareholders, there were a lot of other groups that were upset, but the Orlando police are ending a test of Amazon's real-time face recognition system. This is an actual screenshot, apparently.
It's recognition with a K.
Yeah.
Which is
so
dumb. You should never use K when you could use a C.
You know who else uses a K for C?
Right?
Russia.
You're wrong.
Krista.
There should be... a recognition with a K would be more correct. By the way, I reckon it.
I don't know, this story... Did you feel like Amazon was being honest? Because they said, no, we weren't looking at any normies. We were just tracking our own cops just to see if it would work.
No, I did
Yeah,
not feel like
don't.
there was any. Especially, it looks like they're tracking dogs and cars and
Dogs.
people. And
If I lost Rue, could they find the Rue through the scary
I bet they.
recognition
I
with
bet
the
dogs
K?
are easy because of the color patterns.
I don't know. Like, what if there was a dog that was part of Rue's litter? Would they recognize that and be like, oh, this might be Rue,
Well,
one of her siblings?
I guess you could maybe trick it.
And they're like, oh, no, this dog's afraid of a mushroom. And Rue
But
is...
I think Amazon did agree to back down, didn't they?
they did.
Yes.
And these guys announced this after that, but they were like, "Oh, we just wrapped it up naturally. It was supposed to expire on this day anyway, so we're not really backing down. But we won't be doing that anymore."
It's totally
For now.
fine. DSL Reports has a funny story of Schadenfreude, I guess. Remember Miguel Santiago? He was sort of saying he's a California dude, and I don't know how to succinctly give a backstory on this.
We did a story about it recently.
So California had the replacement for net neutrality at the state level, and it was pretty comprehensive. And the day before it was supposed to go into effect, he called a vote to strip out all the important parts of it, and the vote passed.
So people, a group of citizens, I guess, is getting together to set up this banner on a billboard near his office or outside his office or whatever. It's like Miguel
his
Santiago
district.
is
Yeah.
helping Trump kill net neutrality because people are kind of upset about this.
And I'm sure, just like the FCC, he will listen to and value all comments made at that phone number and not completely ignore them.
That billboard could only be better if it had like the scary eye flash like that you see in the memes.
Or like meme sadness, whatever.
Yeah.
It's really telling when we can't even get basic law passed that just says data is data. If I buy 20 gigabytes of data from you, I'm entitled to use 20 gigabytes of data. And where we see telecom companies now is saying, oh no, the 20 gigabytes that you bought from us is earmarked only for HBO or Hulu or Netflix or whatever. You can't use that 20 gigabytes of data for anything else, which is wrong.
The dude who introduced the bill is going to pull it if this doesn't change, which it doesn't seem like it is. So it's not going to go through in the bad way, at least, which is a good thing because maybe it can be replaced later on.
Yeah, hollow victories. Woo.
Well, this is more like not losing the whole platoon. Lefty survived to tell the tale.
I've seen that movie. It doesn't end well. Also, another follow-up. There was a guy that sent death threats to Ajit Pai.
Not just
don't
Ajit
do
Pai,
that. And his family.
his children.
And
List of preschools and was like, I'm going to find your kids and I'm going to kill them.
don't do that. Why would you do that?
You got to...
The email
yeah,
address
the
he sent
email.
it from.
I can't remember what it was. It was like Stubble. Oh, stubblemanliness@gmail.com.
All caps.
Stubble manliness.
What was the reason he wanted to use that email address is because it sounded
Tougher.
tougher.
It
yeah.
does sound tough. I would not want to mess with stubble manliness.
You know, the only way I would be more frightened by that email is if it had XXX 420 somewhere in it.
Incoming forum sign-ups. Stubble manliness.
Oh, yeah.
420 at gmail.com.
This guy also, you get the impression once the cops came and talked to him, he didn't quite understand that wasn't allowed.
Yeah.
So he apologized. He wrote a letter to Ajit Pai apologizing.
You mean I can't do terrible things like that on the internet?
Well, listen, I don't like Ajit Pai, but like threatening his children who are in preschool, that's pretty.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, that's pretty far out there.
Threatening is stupid. You know,
Yeah.
you kill the children first, then you write the letter.
Incoming demonetization.
Pro criminal tips, I guess. From,
Well, so remember the New York Attorney General was investigating those comments to the FCC when the FCC was like, hey, we're thinking about rolling back net neutrality. Does the public have any thoughts on this? And all of a sudden, all these people showed up saying, yeah, companies should totally be allowed to sell you blocks of data earmarked for a specific purpose because data is clearly not data. And so there's an investigation, several investigations. One of them is the New York State Attorney General, who has been investigating the FCC comments for that. And the FCC will not turn over any evidence to the New York State Attorney General, and that seems crazy.
They won't turn out evidence to anybody. They won't respect freedom of information requests. They won't give anything they're subpoenaed to give. They're basically just
Running roughshod over
Fight me IRL.
federal law trumps state law. It's like, I don't think that. Come on now, fellas, come on.
But I think one good thing about this is it shows that the truth is probably devastating.
Yeah.
So if we can ever fight through all this red tape and get to it, it's going to be amazing.
When it eventually leaks.
Yeah. The one of the reports from the FCC or something the FCC said was, well, we got a lot of fake comments from Russia that were in support of keeping Obama's net neutrality, and it's like, come on now, fellas, don't be dishonest. Don't be even more dishonest. Why is this? The really exciting thing here from the New York Attorney General's perspective is that people in New York State have had their identities impersonated on these comments forms. Like their real names and address, people inside New York State, including some senators, had their identities impersonated or their identities used for these comment forms. So this is not really like an activist attorney general doing this. I'm glad that this attorney general is not looking the other way with this, but it's also kind of telling that not a lot of other people are really doing anything about this at the state level, because we've got 22 million comments submitted on this, and a lot of those were not legit with real people. So I don't know, it's crazy. The feds have run a Bitcoin laundering sting for over a year. So this is news that has come out. So apparently the feds...
Look at this picture here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Bitcoin because you don't know...
I should have had the Bitcoin icon in the eyes.
A running joke on Level 1 is always that the news stories that involve Bitcoin always have the most terrible and or interesting thumbnails.
But that one, at least that was, is that binary or is that like a hash?
There's like some kind of code thing going on in the eye. Don't worry, YouTube's compression has made it to where they can't tell that.
Tell what it is. They just know it's a skull.
This is a step up from the gold Bitcoin stamps. Yeah.
So the reason I think that this story is here is just a reminder that we don't need more laws now that we have Bitcoin, because look, they ran a sting. It's like, I want to buy stuff with Bitcoin. Let's do a Bitcoin for cash thing. And it's like, oh, you bought drugs. We can see that in the blockchain or whatever. Now that we've converted it to cash, we know who you are, and so we can track you down. Good job, law enforcement. You didn't need any extra laws to catch people doing illegal things.
But it took them like a little bit longer, and it would have made my job easier. I could have gotten cake in the conference room when it was Bob's birthday.
Also, the things they're going after here are arguably not that bad. I mean...
People are buying Adderall without a prescription.
Yeah, people are...
Canadian contacts.
People are putting things in their body that the government doesn't approve of. Oh, wow. And we're spending a ton of resources to track them down. Although we probably stole other crypto, so this probably did pay for itself at least.
I just want contact lenses without going into a database. Is that so wrong? The T-Mobile and Sprint CEOs actually have testified before Congress this week, and they have told that if they're allowed to merge, that is Sprint and T-Mobile, that will actually increase competition because, well, let's face it, Sprint and T-Mobile by themselves are no competition for Verizon or AT&T.
Yeah,
that's the reasoning anyway.
It's an amazing mental gymnastics that they do, but these people are well paid and they're convincing to some people, I guess. So their argument really is 3 is better than 4.
Let's not forget that AT&T was almost allowed to buy, was it T-Mobile? I think it was T-Mobile.
Yes, right.
I think it was T-Mobile. AT&T was almost allowed to buy T-Mobile, except their lawyer had created 2 files on their desktop. One was all of the reasons we should never be allowed to merge, and all of the reasons we should definitely be allowed to merge. And they accidentally uploaded the wrong one to the Federal Public Information Response Portal, and it was really damning why they should never be allowed to merge, and that is why they were not allowed to merge.
This article points out a lot of good points about T-Mobile, because T-Mobile is just trying to survive. They have to be good to the customer. They have to give you things like unlimited that's actually unlimited, and cut prices for all these other gimmicks that they're not going to give you on the other plans. And so they point out, all these just like, well, they had to do this because T-Mobile did this. And there's many different examples of that. And so if we lose T-Mobile, if we lose that scrappy fighter who has to cut margins, then it's going to be real bad.
Well, listen, we've got Appalachian Wireless here. They're the next big telecom company.
That was a brilliant business plan right there, Appalachian Wireless.
It was actually.
It was like, ain't nobody ever going to have wireless in these mountains. And somebody was like, they will, and I will own it.
And it worked.
Yeah.
I see ads for that everywhere.
Well, they're the only game in town once you get in the mountains.
The Intercept has a great article on the wiretap rooms.
A
NSA's
long
hidden,
article.
hidden
It
spy
is
hubs in 8 U.S. cities.
But this is not new information.
Not really,
We've
no.
known about like these. I think it's been sort of a conspiracy theory for quite some time. And there was a leaked document by the NSA that basically spelled out, it's like, yeah, here's where they are and here's what they are, which is basically just backbone vampire taps for the NSA. They're just scooping up everything.
All of the internet that goes through everything. And they also talk about how it's like we're let's say that we want to spy on somebody that's in Canada and they're talking with somebody in Germany. Guess what? That goes through America. We could just spy on it through one of these taps because all of the backbones go through these cities.
And there's 7 of them that they know about. And this article is insanely exhaustive. It's tough to get through, but if you've got 30 minutes to kill, it actually details each building and has pictures. It's really cool to go through and look at these. It's like evil secret buildings that are just there for spying purposes.
Oh, and we're not the only people doing this. I'm sure there exists other infrastructure like this in other countries for exactly this purpose.
There may be more that we don't know about.
We did the story about Germany, and they actually legalized it.
Yeah, so they could just talk about it.
Yeah, they could tap. Because they have, like, the whole Middle East and parts of China go through Germany, and maybe Australia or something, and they're like, yeah, we can look at all that. That's fine. Go ahead.
It's not just internet records. It's also emails, phone calls, online chats, basically anything that goes through the web. And a lot of the point-to-point infrastructure is not as encrypted as you might think it would be. So, like, when you get a leased line from AT&T, until Google found out that they were being spied upon in this way, a lot of traffic from one Google data center to the other was not encrypted because it was basically a private circuit. It's not technically on the internet, but it is part of the phone company's infrastructure. And having this type of spying apparatus in the telephone and communications infrastructure means that even if you have a circuit that's not on the internet, it's still vulnerable to this type of spying. And so that's why Google sort of had to double down on their quote-unquote internal security. And a lot of other companies have and should have as well. So, of course, that sort of bleeds into our next story, kind of, which feels really good. And then you think about it, and it's like, oh, because the NSA is deleting more than 685 million call records. And they're saying, it's like, look, we got communications records, call logs. It's not the actual calls themselves. It's like the metadata. But they're saying, well, it's a turd sandwich because it's not accurate. So we're going to delete it.
It's taking up too much space. We don't want it anymore.
You know how they know it's inaccurate? Those buildings.
Yeah, this... But also, it's...
So did anything really change here? It's like, oh, no, that data set.
You think about what the cost was to get all that and how much trouble it was and all the court cases and lying to everybody, and then it's no good. But then our answer to that is we'll just scrap it and start over. Not, this might be a bad idea. Yeah.
It's a huge waste of funding.
How many?
But not this time.
Like, I really wonder, it's like, did we target, like, you know, a middle school teacher in Saskatchewan that, you know, was subject to, like, black ops at Guantanamo Bay because there was an off-by-one error in the CSV logs from these call records, and they're like, oh, yeah, it turns out she wasn't talking to a terrorist in Germany. It was the next entry in the call log.
Yeah, I like how it was broken is national security. We can't talk about that. But it could actually be, you know, like the indexes were bad, which it's just
something minor.
It's incredible that, because you think about how Orwellian all this is and how horrific all this data collection is, and you sort of assign like a supervillain like vibe, but it's still the government, and they're still terrible at things. So they just screw it up too, and
But how were companies authorized to do this in the first place? Was it secret? Did the companies just do it willingly because it's like, yay, good company? Or?
Yeah, they talked about it was a FISA ruling. So,
nice.
Secret courts.
Yeah, secret courts with no oversight.
USA, 4th of July, USA.
That is not the spirit of 1776. Those men did not think that way.
They probably would be blown away by the magical
Literally
blocks.
would be blown away by a drone because they would have large followings, and that's not allowed.
The independent thought alert alarms would go off so hard it would be a crater for a 3-mile radius.
Jefferson level warning.
DARPA unveils a $100 million EDA project. So They want to build a silicon compiler. So the DARPA thinks that the next great applications of the future are going to involve spinning custom silicon to do the work, not a general purpose computer, a very, very purpose-built computer. They want software that can make short work of that.
But you look at the people who are involved, it's like NVIDIA and Qualcomm, and I'm thinking, this would not benefit them. Why would they support this?
Well, if they could lock up a new industry as it's invented, they might be interested in that.
But the whole idea here is it all has to be open.
Yeah.
Because the idea is sort of like open source silicon. So they're going to have this big database, and you can get in there and it's like, well, I need to create a product that does this, and you should be able to have building blocks to start with that have been submitted by these people. I just can't see them doing it.
It would be a good, this could be a good project for repairing international relations, because there is some concern that the silicon has been co-opted by the intelligence apparatus. SIM cards, random number generators, all this encryption depends on numbers being random, and when the numbers aren't random, that's bad news for security. So what, I'm being hopelessly, retardedly idealistic here, but imagine a future where it's like we can cherry pick known, good, vetted silicon components and put those onto an IC and be like, the engineering in this integrated circuit is open and well known and free of state level backdoors, and all the states can work together to agree that no one has any backdoors. And
there's no patent on that, and no one's going to do it.
Yeah, makes me sad, because it could be so good. We could all be assured of everybody's security that no one is doing any funny business.
But at the same time, it could be that U.S. and China and the EU agree that we're going to put this hidden backdoor in it.
But no one else needs to know.
So no one knows, but we'll all spot the same.
That's probably what, there's credible evidence that that's happened with SIM card manufacturing and other stuff like that. So the UK has revealed a centralized biometric database that sounds like an absolute nightmare. So I'm just going to stop right there and say that the UK, you need to go into a room with Australia, and I'll give you a topic, and that is this biometric database, because Australia recently just pulled out of this, and it was not good news for them.
Yeah, well, they just screwed theirs up. There wasn't any concern about freedom or privacy, but this
accuracy.
We actually talked about this, and the amazing amount of points, the amount of columns in this table, because you got voice, all the usual fingerprint, iris, thumbprint. What are the other ones they do? Eye color, height, weight, that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a very, very comprehensive database on each person.
For stealing their identity.
I guess.
So when it gets leaked, you're really screwed.
It's like this ATM camera footage. It looks an awful lot like you because it's low resolution and this guy's just wearing a cheap silicone mask. Seems like you.
When they do the next FCC call-in period, from when they strip even more of our online rights, they can simulate your voice calling in and expressing your want for that reduction.
The AI is it's like, that wasn't me, that was somebody that stole it. It's like, that's a likely story. You matched 17 of 37 points from the database.
There was a comment in that article that was like, from people who were outside of it, who were like, we're really concerned about making sure this is ethical, and then the people who are running it, they're like, oh, no, it'll be fine, it'll be totally legal. And then some other people were mentioning but there aren't really any laws about this kind of thing. It's like,
well, yeah, it'll be legal, because they're making the laws.
well, laws, exactly. So it seems a little odd.
Well, the secret courts are legal here.
Yeah.
Oh, that is some Thomas Jefferson level alert. Is that what you were saying earlier? It's like somebody's mashing that button right now.
We've hit a Jefferson on the corruption scale.
There was one other article on this UK thing that described they've piloted the system already, and it was described as horrifically inaccurate.
Was it 90%?
Yeah.
It was very high.
But once you've got the system, you can just fine tune it. It's like, once we get it in place,
then it'll be 85% wrong.
You get 9 extra people, right? So you're looking for 1, you get 9. You arrest all 9 and you weed down from there. So that's not a problem.
I seem to recall revolutions being fought over similar. There's one other thing that has not escaped the gaze of Senator Ron Wyden is your Tinder photos, which is really creepy because he's like 69. He's old.
He's married.
I
as well.
expected,
Married and has kids.
Yeah, when I read this article, I expected it to be like the porn VHS law, where some senator was on Tinder and somebody got his photos. But I don't think he was actually on Tinder.
No.
He's just, this is something he felt strongly about.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was thinking that was going to go too. But so until recently, Tinder did not actually encrypt. They encrypted the login, but they didn't actually encrypt your activity on the site. Now they do, because that is just basic internet hygiene.
I guess they did that. They actually made that change back in February, but now it's like, official.
I remember we did a story about that where they talked about the website was HTTPS, but when you're actually sending images or swiping, that was not. And people could actually, based on the size of the packets, figure out which direction you were swiping and then pull the image.
Yeah.
So they could actually get your likes and dislikes.
Which
This person
totally
has a strong affinity for brunettes.
Yeah, someone somewhere was building that database. If not for, it could have been for totally commercial purposes. You don't know. Because, again, all of the internet traffic for, all of American citizens runs through one of those 8 choke points. So doing that kind of mass data analysis is right up marketing companies' alleys. They love doing that kind of stuff. So it is being done. Don't worry.
I was under the impression that marketing companies don't like to do anything.
Well, they like to sniff data.
That's true.
They huff it. They huff the data.
They're like the mustard man that just completely covered.
They got a rag soaked with your personal information, and they're just sitting at the desk all day. Yeah, that's the stuff.
And they take a bite of cat food.
Venezuela has done the impossible and blocked Tor. So, yeah. Venezuela implemented DNS controls, and so this spike is Tor utilization from Venezuela. And so Venezuela escalated stuff that's blocked. I didn't think you could actually block Tor completely.
They're blocking a lot more than that, and I think they've basically just painted with a broad brush to get rid of it. That's probably a couple people still doing it, but I think it was so bad in Venezuela, even the normies were getting into Tor.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a way around it, but most people aren't going to know.
And it's more sophisticated than a DNS block. So
Also, think about how tough it is to learn about how to use Tor when your internet is already horribly, horribly censored
Yeah.
sorry,
and
Venezuela.
filtered.
If only we had never built this technology in the first place, the citizenry would be able to alert us to the atrocities that are occurring there.
Oh, I think everyone knows. I mean, maybe not how
Yeah,
bad. Maybe not the scale,
I
but
think
we
the
know,
world
we
is,
know it's
is
happening.
quite aware of what's going on in Venezuela. Maybe not.
Facebook has reversed its ban on cryptocurrency ads. This, I think we predicted this. We were like, that's going to last about 10 minutes because Coinbase and other places like that are legitimizing this type of advertising. So, like your Uncle Frank's Vuvuzela coin is still not going to be able to advertise, but Coinbase can totally advertise.
Yeah, they're vetting it now, and you have to have some kind of
Vuvuzela.
government ID. The Vuvuzela coin's going to be a thing now. So it's still out of reach for everybody except the big ones like Coinbase and whoever the big exchanges are. You also still can't do ICOs or binary options in Bitcoin, which is basically like betting up or down.
I noticed that Google seemed to also start allowing this type of ad because I got an ad for some type of ether that is like SimCity, where you can buy real estate and develop your block of city real estate like SimCity and have it somehow produce ether based on other people doing stuff on your city block. And it's like, this is SimCity, except you make money. I don't understand.
Well, I don't know if they mentioned it in this article, but Facebook was also looking into their own crypto for funding things on Facebook. So I think part of that is they want the stigma to go away because they might be getting into it.
Damn it. Facebook is also getting into more data leaks, maybe not. I don't know.
I don't think this is necessarily Facebook's fault. So nametests.com, which they talk about, it's a quiz app, but it's more like a BuzzFeed type, survey thing. It's really stupid. They give like, what tattoo should you get?
Which carburetor are you?
What 3 qualities are unique about you? Enhance your profile picture beauty. That's not even a question. What are the questions there? So the third-party website, nametest.com, was pulling extra data onto that website, and then you could access it on that website before they fixed it. So,
Is that really a story?
And it was just, I don't think it was the same as the Cambridge thing where it was your friends. It was just your picture and your profile information and stuff like that.
There was one piece of information here that suggested that maybe it would use your answers to market to your friends to try to, it's like, so-and-so did this, so you should, it's like, did you know
I've
that
seen those
so-and-so is a
before.
whatever? And it's like,
Well,
Yeah, it'll post to your profile and be
Yeah.
like, so-and-so took a quiz. Like, they were this. Take the quiz now at
But that's normal Facebook
sharing.
operation.
kinda,
Yeah, I mean, that's not even
Crap.
the stuff they were complaining about with Cambridge. So,
Anyone else remember Quizilla from like early 2000s, late 90s?
which Spice Girl are you?
Yeah, that's what those kind of quizzes were. That's what
which
it
one
reminds
were
me
you,
of.
Kristen?
I don't remember. I used to take those quizzes all the time. That was before social media was a thing, so it was all anonymous.
If
You
I've
just
ever
take
taken
quizzes.
those quizzes, it was only to pollute the data stream.
Which Lord of the Rings character were you? I know you've taken that one.
I don't remember. I remember when I took that was which Harry Potter house are you? I was Ravenclaw. Now you know. Important information.
Well, most Americans think Twitter and Facebook are censoring their political views. Is it that they're censoring their political views, or is it that there's some subtle manipulation? It's like, no, I don't think you're a Ravenclaw. I really think that you're, Hufflepuff or whatever.
Oh,
Well, we know that the big tech companies are a little bit left.
they do
But-
kind of. They don't necessarily censor, but they do alter the way your data is presented when you share it.
Absolutely. And they've done the shadow banning. I mean, in fairness, they do shadow ban, some of the more extreme lefties too. But a lot of the right wing, all the way from white power to maybe we're paying too many taxes, seems to get censored on Twitter. But this study was interesting because both sides of the aisle felt like the other one was overrepresented, which that shows me that people just don't understand that there's a lot of people who don't think like them.
Yeah.
It seems to be. That's just how the world works.
Well, the next logical step after that is to put those people in their own echo chambers, which is what it seems like a lot of these companies are doing,
Well,
which is very bad.
Google News and Facebook both do that, right? They use that news algorithm to figure out what you want, and just give you that confirmation bias all day long
Well,
because they know that's what you want.
They also do the thing where or Facebook does this, where like if it thinks it's not a legit source, it'll make the icon smaller.
I
when
think
you share a
that's
story.
that's one of the many ways that they do go a little bit left, where if there's any sort of, the anti-Trump stuff is, but that's at the same time, anti-Trump is big money right now. That's every late night talk show that exists right now. It's just a big anti-Trump rally every night, and people love it. People are eating it up.
The writers don't even have to show up for work.
No.
Or anti Jinping Z? Is that it?
I don't think you're not allowed to have that one.
We'll learn that later. I'm foreshadowing. That's something that's going to come up in
We
the
have a story
nonsense
later
section.
on. Is that nonsense? I thought it was in this section.
Was it? No, I think it's
No,
nonsense.
it's a nonsense because
Okay.
it's so
It
ridiculous.
is ridiculous.
But my point is it political bias or is it just catering to the lowest common denominator? Because that's what these companies are going to do every time. They're trying to make money.
It's probably mostly lowest common denominator, but probably a little bit of bias as well.
You know what else Facebook is doing? Well, they've got a patent on this anyway. They want to spy on you by hiding secret and audible messages in TV ads and force your phone to record private conversations, a patent reveals.
That's
So
insane.
I think that headline here is a little bit clickbaity. They did actually patent that. It does actually work the way it's described in the headline, but this has come up in the past, and every time it has come up in the past, they have said this is not actually in a product right now, and yet there's a lot of anecdotal evidence of third-party apps where it's like, I was talking about a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and now I'm getting ads for Jeep Grand Cherokee, and I don't understand why.
Well, this specifically isn't so much to see what you're saying, but to try to determine if you're paying attention to the commercial.
If you
So-
get up and walk out or something like that.
Yeah, if they hear like the toilet flush while they hear the super secret tone from the commercial, you're not watching the commercial, are you? So they can sort of feed that back to the advertiser. But remember
They call that theft.
the soccer app?
Yeah.
This is basically the soccer app.
Yeah.
So people are doing this. There are other people, and I wonder if Facebook's like, "Hey, bro, that's our patent."
We're going to have to drink a verification can to continue our programming.
Oh, no, it was this one. It was not nonsense.
It is in here, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
that's government. I
Yeah.
guess it's government.
So HBO's website is apparently blocked in China thanks to John Oliver.
Look at him.
He was the host has criticized the country's president for blocking Winnie the Pooh.
You got to show the side by side.
Is there a side-by-side in this article?
Oh, maybe this was. Oh, I think it was a Wall Street Journal, and it was paywall.
Yeah.
But anyway,
We've talked about that joke
Jing,
on several.
is his name Jing or Jian or
I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Xi Jinping.
Xi Jinping? Oh yeah, and he does look a lot like Winnie the Pooh. Have you seen the side by
I
side?
haven't seen the side-by-side. I've
No,
heard that before.
he definitely does.
We did a story about that before.
But apparently, he's very sensitive to that.
Why? Winnie the Pooh's a beloved children's book character.
But no, he's like the strong communist leader. He can't be a
Listen,
children's
Winnie
character.
the Pooh was very popular in the 100-Acre Forest.
Remember when Erdogan from Turkey locked that guy up because he compared him to Gollum?
Oh, yeah.
There was a strong resemblance there, too.
So all of HBO has been blocked, which I think is probably going to result in corrective action to, it's like John Oliver can make jokes, ha ha ha. HBO will not permit this.
Poor China. They're going to miss the finale of Game of Thrones.
Oh, they'll find it.
Yeah, I don't think
There's always a way.
I think they'll get the finale of Game of Thrones, but HBO might not make any money from that, which is the problem. Colorado lawmakers want to make it a felony to fly a drone over a wildfire. I don't see a problem with that.
I
don't see a problem with it
I
either.
see a possible problem with it. I agree that flying a drone over a wildfire is probably a stupid thing to do. But if you recall, whenever something weird happens, like remember the big DC rally against, or was it against Trump or for Trump? I don't remember. But they shut down that airspace immediately. They didn't want any coverage of what was actually going on there. So that would mean that you could not observe. So if something goes down and people want to cover it in the news, the government can just shut that down at any time.
Wait, I thought this was just discussing, like, in the event of wildfires.
But they shut down the airspace over wildfires. So it'll be a product of, once we shut down the airspace, you can't fly a drone.
What if you fly
It's
a
a
drone
felony.
on a
Yeah.
tether? Because you can get away with that near an airport
I
as
don't
long
think
as it's
so.
not more than 100 feet.
Are
No, I
you
think
are
it's-
you implying that someone would start a forest fire next to a rally?
No, I'm saying they don't have to have a forest fire to shut down the airspace. They can do that for, like Hurricane Katrina, they shut down the airspace.
Yeah, so they've already doing it. But this seems like a good...
This makes it a felony.
Oh, that's a little worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is, okay, slightly worse. I didn't understand the context you were indicating there.
Maybe it should be a felony if they shut down the airspace and there are aircraft operating in the same area of the drone.
Well, that'll
Then it's
always
felony.
that'll always be the case because you'll always have some military or National Guard aircraft in any situation like that.
The firefighters mentioned that, like, a lot of times they'll be fighting a fire and they'll see a drone and they have to ground any planes they have immediately because if it hits it, that could cause a serious problem.
Yeah, well, I think a case-by-case basis is fine here.
Yeah.
Maybe a possible felony, but I think it could be abused. Although overall, definitely putting out fires. And flying a drone over a fire, you're pretty much just doing that for the YouTube views, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no really good reason to do that.
For a vlog.
Here's my forest fire vlog. There's a couple instances where drones have actually started forest fires where they've crashed and their batteries have burst into flames. And then it started a forest fire.
And the firefighters hate that even more.
Firefighters hate this one weird trick. You know what else made the news this week? YouTube messing with thumbnails. So it's like
I don't know if this counts as the news.
Well, there's probably a better source for it, but this is where I saw it. Happened to be on Twitter. It came up on our feed, so.
YouTube says we're running an experiment where 0.3% of viewers will see an auto-generated thumbnail instead of your custom thumbnail. We're not removing the ability. So, okay, whatever.
I don't understand what they're hoping to gain with this.
So
Yeah, I don't understand either.
I'm sure that a lot of our audience is furiously commenting already, but it seems like YouTube's it seems like YouTube thumbnails that have like somebody with like a reaction face like it's all like you can seriously manipulate the number of people that click on a video with a thumbnail that has certain components in it. And so I think YouTube is sort of noticing that all of the thumbnails are sort of gravitating toward those kinds of things instead of actually being relevant to whatever's being discussed.
How about the app icons on the Google Play Store for games?
Yeah.
It's all
They're all the same.
It's all a screaming face
Yeah.
with a little bit of spittle coming out.
That's pretty much YouTube thumbnails anymore. It's always someone going like, and then like there's like a RGB sort of glow behind them, and then like.
Well, let's do an experiment.
Ryan won't do it.
No, I'm not doing it.
There's our thumbnail.
But does that not? I mean, again, that's the YouTube audience, right?
Yeah.
It is.
So why not give them what they want?
Well, Team YouTube doesn't want anybody
listen.
to exploit the algorithm.
They'll give you what you want 99.97% of the time, but 0.03% of the time you're going to get what YouTube says. A lot of people are
I think
upset
your
about
ratio
this.
is way off there. I think it's maybe 50-50 at best.
The YouTube people said too, or like some of the comments in this thread, people were saying, what about people who pay for thumbnails to get made for them? Like, that kind of sucks for them that they paid someone to do that, and then there's a chance that someone won't even see it.
Well, it's the whole argument that, don't base your livelihood on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because that's a bad idea, by the way.
There's also some language in the YouTube terms of service. It says that they will not mess with your content, including uploaded thumbnails. So this would seem to run afoul of the promise that they make in their user agreement, but it's their platform. So.
Yeah, well, they're going to change that and
Yeah.
pray they don't alter it further. But again, all of the problems that YouTube has with the notifications, and maybe that's on purpose, but let's say it's not. Why are we wasting time with this? This is like PUBG putting out DLC. The game doesn't work.
We have a perfectly nice forum full of people at forum.level1.
Not nice people.
That's a bit of a stretch calling some of them people.
We love you all, and you know it.
We love some of you.
Most,
Most, yeah.
we try to help you find productive ways to fill your time.
Most people in our forum are
We
perfectly
fail
fine.
spectacularly based on most
We're not
of
really
your
selling the
behavior.
forum experience very well, but you should sign up anyway.
You should sign up to try and drown out the
Shit
bad
posting?
apple. Yeah.
It's like all that time spent shit posting, and you could have accomplished something.
No, man. But look at this anime cat girl.
There has been a lot of that lately.
Oh, it's not too bad. It stays in its own relegated area.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next one. Today's the 4th of July. We should be outside having fun, but instead we're bringing you the news in real time because...
In real time.
Objectively, the greatest day in any year on the planet Earth.
2018. It's 2018. Was that your way of telling me I forgot to say the year?
No, I'm saying every year since 1776, this has been the greatest day of the year on the entire planet. Everybody agrees.
I think the founding fathers literally said that we would be celebrating this day with fireworks, since 1776. But people keep doing dumb stuff with fireworks, and I fear one day they're going to be outlawed.
I'm not doing anything for 4th of July. as far
All
as
the
I
cool
know.
ones already are. But they should never be because our national anthem has bombs and rockets in it. That's who we are.
USA.
Apple and Samsung have declared peace in the biggest modern tech patent fight yet. So Apple and Samsung have been suing each other since time immemorial. There are multiple lawsuits. I think Samsung has lost 2 lawsuits to the tune of like $1 billion and then like a couple $100 million.
They had to cut down. It was like $1 billion and then they revised it down.
It's like $400 million now and $100 million. And some of that Samsung's already paid. So Apple and Samsung have decided to call it peace, and they've dropped their mutual lawsuits against each other.
I'm sure they settled some of that money, though.
Yeah.
You think that they swapped daughters? Like, your daughter will marry my son? And
Can you imagine the Apple daughter? That would be a tough marriage. A tough... the prince would really have to bite the bullet there.
I'm picturing, like, the most basic person ever. Like,
Yeah.
yoga pants,
Just-
boots.
Yeah, but she would look good, but there'd be nothing upstairs.
There come the downvotes really early in this episode.
But they talk about how, I think Apple is kind of like, all right, Samsung, our houses have been at war for 1,000 years, but the true enemy, Qualcomm, is, it's beyond the wall, and soon they will come.
I'm sure that we will have lots and lots of follow-ups on this story, so fun.
Who will break the truce first?
It's finally coming to the attention of normies that AT&T has bogus fees on the bills. So AT&T is screwing customers by almost tripling a bogus fee is the headline on this article from Android Police. Does this really surprise anybody that there are bogus fees in the first place on your bill?
It was 97 cents. Or was it? No, it's 54 cents. And now it's $1 something, right?
Yeah.
But $1.23. It went up $1.23. So that is a very small amount of money. Most people probably wouldn't notice that. And I think that's the idea.
Is that just slowly move it up over and over?
Well, they didn't do it slowly. They did it once in March and then again just this month.
I'm going to read this from an analyst here. It says, this raise could net almost $1 billion in additional revenue, according to one analyst. This could allow AT&T to finance up to $10 billion in new debt for its ever-expanding media empire. Yes, the FCC regulatory recovery fee on your phone bill for a piece of equipment to service telecommunications from here to there is probably going to go to content production. What is wrong with this picture?
And that's the old tactic of, like when the gas station sniffers first came out. Like, because gas pumps used to use Wi-Fi to communicate with the actual store. And no one thought that maybe that was a bad idea. So people would just build little sniffers and throw them on the roof, and they'd get all the credit card transactions, and then they'd bill all those people 99 cents a month. But if you get enough of them, that's billions of dollars. So online criminals do that kind of thing.
Exactly the same way that AT&T. But AT&T is going to get away with it, and the criminals are not. So
I'm not sure if that's a simile or metaphor. Is it like them or is it them?
Amazon buys PillPack, an online pharmacy, for just under $1 billion. I never thought selling pills online. I mean, didn't they put some guy away for this, for doing that with Bitcoin?
Wow.
Well, several. Yeah. Well, that was the we just did yesterday, the money laundering story.
How can Amazon do it, but not Canadians? I would trust Canadians more than Amazon.
Well, they can do it by spending billions of dollars and lobbying the government. I like the name PillPack.
Yeah, I like that too.
Usually, when they're talking about pills, they use the word like medication or prescription. They never say pill, because pill is like pill mill.
That's what you pick up, off the sidewalk and shove down your mouth.
Or you go to somebody's house in a scary part of town to buy pills. You go to the pharmacy to buy medication. But I guess they just really needed a domain name.
Medication Pack did not sound good.
MedPack.
That I think id Software has a copyright on that or something.
MedKit is theirs, right?
Oh, MedKit. Okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, PillPack's visionary team has combined a deep pharmacy experience and focus on technology, says Amazon CEO of Worldwide Consumer, Jeff Wilkie.
I don't know if this article covered it, but I've read where a lot of people are like, it's kind of like Whole Foods. They're just buying these people to get all their licenses and infrastructure. And Amazon is totally going to
just take over and
do their own thing, in the medical world. I like how when they did that, they mentioned in that article, the stock prices of all of the online competitors for medicine just tanked. Because they're like, oh God, Amazon's getting in this business.
I mean, I can
Bail
buy
out.
pills offline.
Yeah, everybody just run away.
I mean, you can technically buy some pills online already, but I wonder, can I get the good stuff? Can I get antibiotics from my prepper kit?
I cannot imagine. Can you, what kind of armored van would you need to deliver Oxycontin in this area?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of some movies that were very dystopian about that.
This is just a damn Z-Pack, and they just throw it down in the sewer and the fish, drink it up.
Speaking of really horribly dystopian things, Amazon workers facing firing can appeal to a jury of their coworkers. So this is one of those things where it's like there's a rat problem on an island, so they release some snakes to get rid of the rats, and then there's a snake problem, and then maybe the mongoose is like the next thing. So we're whatever the thing is past mongoose level, because what was it? One of the federal oversight things, like the Federal Labor Board or whatever, reviewed Amazon's hiring and firing practices, and they said, well, Amazon, you're maybe a little too quick to fire workers when there's a problem. You need to give them an opportunity for corrective action. And so now workers in Amazon apparently have a choice of 3 different things.
Yeah, they
What
can.
number two? I didn't see that.
They can quit on the spot and get a severance package. That's kind of like Deal or No Deal. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, oh,
Door number one.
you want to get paid for the next 6 weeks? Go ahead and quit. Or you can be reviewed by a manager panel, judgment panel, or you can go for the panel of your peers.
Your coworkers will review your work and productivity.
I would love to see a skit about that, where it's like, you know, it's got the models all up with like the cases. Which one will you select?
That's basically like the labor lawyers are saying that's basically how it is, and that is not how we should conduct ourselves with regard to labor law.
But more importantly, it's, you know, the one person here described it as a kangaroo court, because you go first and you lay out why you think you should stay there. And then they turn off all the cameras and all the equipment, and you sit in a room by yourself, probably with the lights off, while the manager, the prosecutor, gives their case, but you're not allowed to hear it. And then they come back with a verdict.
Neat. Definitely sounds really dystopian. Because I don't know. I mean, I guess it's better than just being fired over something minor, but
I wonder if it probably it's just lip service, because that business model, they need a very, very, very low functioning employee for a lot of those jobs. You know, I mean, the wristbands and the little tricorder things they carry around that basically do the job, right? You know, you're just meat that's moving those things around. So
how long before Amazon PillPack just prescribes the appropriate pill to shut down the higher cognitive function to make those workers more resilient?
We've decided your unhappiness comes from not having enough Xanax and Adderall in your system. So go ahead. Don't worry about swallowing these pills. The automated ejector is going to come and put it directly into your bloodstream.
And then a year later, it's like, well, I'll be damned. Billy's the best packer that we've got. He has a laser-like focus on packing those packages.
Here's your Amazon-branded bucket in case you experience any nausea, but don't stop moving.
Then he goes home and he just walks around his living room. He doesn't sleep anymore. He just walks, paces back and forth, filling boxes.
If you've been following this program for a long time, you know that it's been a really bad news for PC security in general and PC hardware. I'm, of course, talking about Meltdown and Spectre and all of their variants and all of the subclasses of things where it's like hyper-threading is not secure anymore, and just, it's a mess. It's a terrible mess. Well, bad news, because, you know, browser sandboxing, which is something that we've gotten pretty good at, about, you know, you can be sure that if you go to a website, that a website isn't going to be able to take over your entire computer. Well, I've got some bad news. Changes in WebAssembly could render the Meltdown and Spectre browser workarounds useless. And so WebAssembly is a pretty cool, hot new technology that'll let you run JavaScript really quickly and other executable code on the web page really quickly. But because of the hardware flaws, it may be able to see what other apps on your computer are doing, retrieve encryption keys, that sort of thing. That's sort of bad.
This is a timing-based thing. So when it first came out for these vulnerabilities, the way they fixed it is they just sort of fuzzed the timing a little bit and wouldn't let JavaScript be that accurate as far as timing. But by introducing the threads, it's going to allow you to use the one thread to observe the other thread in a similar way as the hyper-threading thing. And so WebAssembly has actually had to put that on hold. They can't roll that out because
It's
of
not a complete
Spectre
fix.
and Meltdown.
This is going to be a problem that we ultimately fix in hardware. There's not going to be a software workaround that's really going to be acceptable here. And that's, I mean, what a time to be alive. It's one, it's new computer science, but two, I can't believe nobody caught this before. This is like, I don't know, discovering that antibiotics kills people in certain scenarios or something. AT&T removed HBO from an unlimited data plan after buying Time Warner. So again, data is data. Oh wait, it's not. AT&T doesn't want to treat data as data.
No one wants to air HBO this week. China doesn't.
Well, you can
doesn't.
still get HBO, but you
just
have
have to pay
to.
more.
I think it's
Yeah.
$5 more per month for that plan. And here's the best part about this article. And maybe I'm just living under a rock and I didn't know it. When you get the lower tier plan, you don't get HBO, but you do get a package of other channels, including Taylor Swift Now.
Wait, she has a whole channel?
She has a channel.
I didn't
Is it
know
just
that.
her video?
I don't know.
Well,
Somebody in the chat is definitely going to let us know.
man,
Or the
my
comments.
phone's all the
or
way
whatever.
over there, but I really want to look that up now.
So yeah, you might not get to
Concert
watch
footage?
Game of Thrones, but you can watch Taylor Swift 24 hours a day.
Look what you made me do.
Yeah, and this is also has to do with those, quote unquote unlimited plans. So there are a variety of unlimited choices. We had a story about that a while back where it's like different levels of limits for the unlimited, and now it's different choices about what packages you get in terms of extra channels and stuff like that.
I would totally watch her videos on group policy and, debugging and securing things and that sort of thing.
Swift on security.
Yeah. I just this underscored like this article, like if you are of the opinion that the whole net neutrality, like free market thing is the thing that makes sense, you should probably read this article really carefully, because this is exactly the sort of dystopian stuff. It was really hard to argue the position that data is not data. And if you read this article thinking about data as data, I don't understand how you would come to any other conclusion other than data is data, because there's like 7 different definitions of unlimited here, which is ridiculous.
And all of them have stars underneath them.
Yeah. Google Earth has a new tool that lets you measure the distance and area of anything on the map. So basically point and click. It's like you would think that there was a way to do this before, but it's like, hey, how far away is this from this? There you go. Oh, what sort of area is this? Oh, this sounds like a lot of fun.
I think the coolest feature is it's not just a rectangle for determining area. You can freehand and make whatever shape you want, and it'll figure out the area. That's cool.
So you should play with that.
It seems like what's that feature for, other than like students, I guess?
House hunting.
Update us on your house hunt. Tell us how it's going.
It's not going well.
I'm trying to convince Ryan to get a tiny house, and he won't do it. So I can live vicariously through him.
I've been waiting for our next article. It's exciting, but not for any reasonable reason. NVIDIA is looking to gag journalists with a multi-year blanket NDA. That's the headline. This is the NVIDIA NDA. So this is bumpkiss. This is not this NDA is totally, there is nothing wrong with this NDA. It is totally industry standard. Like, people are freaking out saying that NVIDIA is saying, "Oh my gosh, we can control everything that you say for 5 years." No, that's BS. That's utter BS. This is a completely standard NDA. There is nothing wrong with this NDA.
I think hard OCP has a little bit of a grudge because NVIDIA has shut them out, as they predicted, because they revealed the GPP.
thing.
They pretty much, they're the ones that ruined the GPP. They were the kittens that pooped in the GPP sandbox and ruined it and let everybody know that the sand was dirty.
You think maybe this NDA thing was like them testing the waters to see, what's going on? Because I think that people complaining about this NDA sort of undermine how insidious the GPP really was, and so I wonder if that was a calculated move on NVIDIA's part.
I don't know. I mean, I think NDAs in any form are garbage. It shows that how powerful the companies are, because people are desperate to use their products for attention.
Gamers Nexus did a video with a lawyer, an actual, like an IP lawyer, going through the agreement. And I would not have thought that type of content would be necessary on the internet in this day and age, but I guess some people were making this out to be more than it is. The only thing that I think that people are really latching onto here that's perhaps unresolved is like the whole 5-year term of the NDA. But the reason that's there is, let's say that a company's getting ready to release a product, and they seed you, and you get the product, and you're taking a look at it as a journalist or whatever. But then something happens. Like, let's say Meltdown Inspector, the GPU equivalent of that happens, and they're like, well, even though you guys have prototypes of this, we're going to pull the manufacturing of this until we fix those security vulnerabilities with this product. And that might take a year or 2 or 3, or the product might be canceled for other reasons. So if they never actually release the product to the public, then you would be under that NDA for 5 years. And then at the end of 5 years, you could talk about the product they never released. That's why that clause is there. And so it's not like people freaking out about that. Like when they release the product, then you don't have any information that's under NDA. So what's the big deal? But if they never actually release the product, then that would still be under NDA. And that's happened before. I mean, Intel did that with their graphics cards. You know, they actually seeded graphics cards to people, and then they were like, you know what, we're canceling this product because Intel's schizophrenic like that. So that's when that type of clause would apply in those scenarios. So why do people freak out about this? Like, the internet is amazing because we can do this wonderful, awesome stuff collectively, but sometimes we just get like an earwig in our ear and we go crazy.
Some people who aren't Americans and don't know what an earwig is are like, what? Google it. Google those things.
It's a carnivorous earwig that crawled in my brain through my ear. Why? Kind of like Microsoft. Microsoft is... oh, Microsoft. They're doing this stream to win thing. They're also doing... what was the name of this service? A Mixer.
Mixer.
Yeah, so Microsoft really wants in this whole like Twitch thing, so they're like, hey, let's do this with our...
Let's start streaming, but...
Not only are they late to the party, they're literally arriving after most of the guests have already gone home.
Well, it's Twitch is kind of the monster there. YouTube tried to do the same thing with YouTube gaming, and I don't think it was ever very successful.
No.
Well, the story here is this is going to be Forza 4, is it? Yeah, Forza 4 is going to be the first game to reward you for streaming, at least to Mixer. They're not sure if any other services are going to get that, but because your Xbox has Mixer built in, you can fire up Forza, you can start streaming, and you will get some kind of DLC type in-game content for doing so.
Some sort of skin.
Did you guys get paid? I did the Bing thing. Remember Bing? It was like you can get paid to do searches on Bing. I totally did that, and I got some gift cards.
Oh, I had a friend who did that.
Yeah, I mean,
in college because he was desperate for money, so he would just use the search engine all the time.
Yeah, this is that, but for gaming.
Except you don't even get anything tangible from this. You're literally just getting like skins or in-game currency.
Well,
but I bet someone will do it.
But it's kind of like
I'd get really into it.
You know, the Amazon Prime outfits in PUBG. I don't have any respect for people who have those.
No.
Like, you didn't earn that.
You gotta have yellow pants in PUBG. That's the only way to earn respect.
CNN Tech brings us our next article, which is unexpectedly dark the more that you think about it. On the surface, it seems good. Amazon wants you to start a business to deliver its packages.
Look at this guy staring pensively out the window.
Yeah, it's just a...
As he thinks about starting his business.
Is that an airplane?
He's waiting for his package.
What is that? Is that something on the horizon? I don't know what that is.
I think it's just a dust cloud because the delivery truck is coming.
So if you've got 10 grand and want to be your own boss, Amazon has got a deal for you.
Basically, they're going to sell you 5 trucks for 10 grand. Branded trucks, which seems like a decent idea. Maybe.
With insurance and the other stuff.
And their software, which is probably pretty good at finding directions.
Let me just, I can just sum up this whole article for you. The business owners will be able to make as much as $300,000 a year in profit running a full-size fleet of 40 vans and managing 100 employees. Managing 40 vans and 100 employees, 300 grand, you are going to be at the office 93 hours a week.
Yeah, that sounds
Also,
miserable.
that you're going to hit that number if all of your van drivers are pissing in jugs. Otherwise, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. This is, like, again, the more layers you peel back, the darker this gets. So why does Amazon want to do this? 2 reasons. One, our president has been sort of insane saying that the post office is not making enough money off of Amazon when they've demonstrated that they are. So Amazon's worried about that. 2, Uber and things like that, like the ride-sharing services, Uber and those companies are getting dinged saying that those are employees of the company. Amazon can't have that. And so these people will literally need to start their own company to be drivers to avoid making Amazon liable for those types of things. And in most jurisdictions, smaller companies are exempt from a lot of requirements like around insurance and you know, blah, blah, blah. If you had a small delivery company of like 4 or 5 drivers and 4 or 5 drivers all share ownership of the company, you don't have to have things like unemployment insurance because the people actually own the company. That is why Amazon is doing this. It's an end run around employment law, basically.
So basically they can have more piss jugs.
Well, I mean, this might be good. This might be a good job for like veterans and stuff, but it's just I don't know. It seems like this is going to be good for Amazon more than it's good for
It
the
sounds kind of like
entrepreneur.
a multi-level marketing kind of thing that you see on like Facebook, like make all the money from home.
Jimmy, last year I was just like you. I only had 5 vans, and now look at me. I've got 40 vans, and I live at the office.
I live in one of the vans. I've converted it.
Torn Frink says that Google is downranking 65,000 pirate search results because they're showing up highly ranked in Google search
Yeah,
results.
it's
They have
funny.
content.
People seem to like going to those sites.
The content updates regularly.
The algorithm has determined that those sites are popular.
So this is, if you're looking for like, watch Taylor Swift now. They will
You
not.
just stream that on YouTube.
Yeah, they will not allow a pirate site to rank higher than a site that could sell you that content. That's the whole idea of that thing. So
How does the algorithm know what a piece of content is?
Couldn't, in theory, those piracy sites be like, here's the link to download it, here's the link to the legit source, and then get around that?
no, because they know. Like if you search for Pirate Bay, for
Oh,
example,
yeah.
you're still going to the Pirate Bay. You have to search for the content itself. So Google knows who the creator of that content and like who the quote unquote legitimate people are versus other download links.
Spooky. Voices of millions of UK taxpayers have been stored by HMRC, so Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, like the tax authority. The Voice ID system has collected 5.1 million audio signatures, and it accuses the thing of biometric ID cards by the back door. So it wants to incorporate, they want to add the voice IDs to like that national biometric database or whatever, or maybe not. Maybe they just want to use it for tax payment. But either way, this was done surreptitiously.
Maybe Her Majesty just wants to listen to the voices of her subjects.
Well, this is I don't know. This could be they could be telling the truth. I don't want to fall on their side by default, but this is sort of like a password thing. So you can call them up and you can repeat a sentence in your voice, and that becomes your password.
Your
So
voice.
if you're, you're not good at remembering PIN numbers or passwords. I mean, when you fill out your taxes, you got to do that PIN thing, and that's like every year. I don't understand that at all. Do you? And it's like,
That's why I pay to get my taxes done.
yeah, H&R Block just does it for you. But if I had to do that on paper, Jesus. So this thing is just like, hey, listen, moron. Just read this sentence, and from now on, just say the same sentence when you call in. We'll let you in. But I wonder how much, like, how fuzzy can this get? What if you have the flu and your voice is different?
It does. Or
What if you've been visiting your parents for a few days and your Eastern Kentucky came back?
Or you get kicked in the throat.
or you're just, a scammer calls over and over and over again to try to like get your stuff. What
Brute
if
force it.
what if you're like a Michael Caine impersonator and you call, could you get Michael Caine's taxes? Is that a thing?
That would be a great way to validate your impressions. Now, the other thing to keep in mind here is they are in tandem with this working on that biometric database, which
Yeah.
includes voice. So
Is that a coincidence?
that's a little suspicious.
Smart home technology becomes the newest
I
tool
love
of
this
domestic
story.
abusers.
Like you can just imagine, these helpless housewives. I'm surprised nobody's made a movie about this yet.
Oh, they have actually. It's on Netflix. It's called Tao.
Oh, that's the one you were talking about earlier.
Does it, let's see how, like, just like, Alexa, call her stupid.
No.
No.
It's so what'll happen is like there'll be an abusive man, and he'll get thrown out of the house. But
All right, I'm turning off the air conditioner.
yeah, he's still got the Nest and the
All those
the
connections.
lights and all the alarm system, and he's got everything on his phone as an app, and so he just sits and screws with the woman by changing things constantly, and there are no laws.
That could go either way in either direction for either gender. Couldn't you? I would think as soon as you broke up, that you would change all the usernames and passwords. on
Well,
those kind
see,
of things.
they point out that there's a lot of like Silicon Valley type housewives involved here who are sort of kept women and rich, but
So they don't really understand how it works.
maybe not the brightest, maybe some trophy wives involved, and they have no idea how anything is set up.
It's also not super easy to unenroll devices from stuff like this sometimes. Like, it's like, I need to divorce this account from this phone or whatever. There's not necessarily a straightforward way to do that in all cases.
And they also talk about how she'll call the cops or, some sort of emergency line, and they'll show up. But what can they do? They don't understand what's going on. So they're just like, well,
Wouldn't that be like harassment? I guess. I don't
well,
know.
they're
It's
talking.
kinda nebulous.
They're talking about making laws, but there are currently not any laws.
I don't think the police would be able to figure out if is it domestic abuse or is it, somebody in Russia mining cryptocurrency on the Nest. I mean, you don't know.
Yeah, I think the answer to this question, as is often the case, is don't do Internet of Things.
Yep.
Or no. If only somebody would do Internet of Things where it had a stupid fallback, where it's like it's not on the internet anymore, it still functions as a toaster or a thermostat or whatever.
That'll never happen.
Technology launching this week, security-wise. Wi-Fi Alliance has launched WPA 3. What do you need to know about WPA 3? Well, it's WPA 2 with some much-needed improvements. And some algorithmic improvements as well.
192-bit now, and they've got... It's mostly just security fixes for keeping people from hijacking it in various ways that were easy with WPA 2.
Yeah, there were some things WPA2 that were not encrypted, that were not necessarily sensitive, but clever people figured out ways to exploit that. It's also true that WPA2 Enterprise might have been a dumpster fire, and that's been improved with WPA3 Enterprise.
But I think it's, 2020?
Yeah.
So, not coming soon. Soonish.
2 years from now.
It'd be
Not that
nice.
far.
Every Android device since 2012 is impacted by the Rampage vulnerability. So this is sort of like Rowhammer, if you've heard of the Rowhammer attack, but it's available on Android devices now, so you can break out of the sandbox, which is most applications on Android run in a sandbox to begin with. So this is actually kind of a big deal.
Yeah, and this is... Everything since 2012 is vulnerable to this, and there's not a good way to fix it. So, this is another one of those that you should be paranoid about it, but you're helpless. So just swim in your paranoia.
I think the vulnerability actually exists with DDR2, 3, and 4 memory. So unless you've got an Android phone that has error-correcting memory, you're probably boned. Can't wait for malware that actually exploits this. That's not just proof of concept
but
malware.
yeah, it's a little tricky to do. It can't be easy because you have to observe when you're getting the result that you want. And that's a very specific result that you're trying to get by modifying the magnetic field. So it would be a high level. I think probably this is going to be more like, the NSA is going to be building this software, not, Vlad.
We're not keeping out gray key. Is that what you're telling me?
Vlad the crypto miner might not have this level of
Vlad the
sophistication.
The memory row impaler. Swan, do you have a home security camera from Swan? I've got some bad news. Their camera sent video to the wrong user. They said this was just a one-off event and that was totally fine, and
Well, it actually happened twice.
yeah.
But here's the thing.
That was actually a lie.
They claim, and this is bad enough, so these, I guess, are hard-coded with some sort of ID, like a MAC address or something. I don't know exactly what the ID is, but it's in the hardware. And they're like, oops, in the factory we made 2 that were duplicate by accident. But that's only happened once. How is that possible? It's going to happen a bunch of times. And
Twice. It's only happened twice.
And this other guy found it. But the bigger question is, there's got to be a user and a password there, right? So somehow it doesn't try to match the hardware ID with the username and password. It seems like you could still differentiate.
I like how stuff like this is built such that it's like this thing has to go all the way across the internet and back before it's functional. And it's like, but things like video cameras, would it be crazy to just record and store the video locally, proximal to the camera, and then use those kind of like unique device IDs and like password recovery functions? Would that be so wrong? Would that be a poor way to architect the system? I don't think you need to send this all the way over the internet and back.
But if you do it that way, then you don't have control anymore.
The company would not have control, yes.
That's what I'm
That's the
saying.
problem,
That's why they
yeah.
don't do that.
That would be a good selling point, though.
Because remember the garage door opener, and the guy was just
It's
like,
vindictive,
"Oh,
yeah.
you don't like us? Well, guess what? Your garage door opener doesn't work anymore because it has to go over the internet through our server."
Speaking of things that are on the internet and have no business, A marketing firm Extractus leaked a personal info database with 340 million records. So yeah, here's a piece of advice for you. Marketing firms generally don't have anybody working security, and the people that are working security mostly are ignored. So yeah, 340 million records leaked onto the internet. This is from an Elasticsearch database from Florida. So it seems like this database with pretty much every U.S. citizen in it.
And
nice.
They also talk about how deep this marketing database was. What was it, like 400 variables, 400 things this thing knows about you.
That sounds like something marketing firms would dream up, though.
Yeah, I don't know 400 things about myself.
I need to know what lipstick color this person wears on
It seems to go that deep.
All of us are recoiling in horror. The people that actually work for marketing firms are like, maybe I could download a copy of this and use this in my firm, since it's leaked anyway.
Yeah. And that's basically...
Can upload it back to Amazon?
Basically the entire U.S. population. They knew about... Like, how do they know things about people who... There got to be some outliers who aren't on the internet. But somehow they figured out something about them.
If you combined like retailer databases and that sort of thing, it's a shockingly small number of large national and multinational companies that are handling data for companies like Walmart and Target. And very few companies have not let their data out. I think Kroger is one company I can think of that's not really partnered with any of these third-party firms. And eventually that data is going to be aggregated in some way. And that's just what Exactus has done.
Also, what they've all got to have that like Latin flavor, Securus, Exactus,
Cerberus.
It's so cringy.
This is going to be something that we report on several times, I'm sure. So we're not really going super into detail here, but these types of leaks may represent a new class of, like we talked about, like the leaky S3 buckets. This type of leak through Elasticsearch may be something that we see more of in the future, because there's a lot more data that's stored behind Elasticsearch, and a lot of people are using Elasticsearch for site searching because it's really very good. And normally you want to only feed Elasticsearch with information that was already public to begin with, but a lot of people miss that memo. So hundreds of hotels are affected by a data breach at a hotel booking software provider. Were they using Elasticsearch? But yeah, so if you've used a hotel booking provider here.
Well, this was the software itself was flawed, and this guy found a way in. And once he got malware on that system, he could access all of the various hotels themselves. And got away with a lot of... It's funny because it seemed like they had different levels of security. Some he got credit card details from, some he didn't.
The timeline on this I thought was pretty interesting. And this is pretty typical, I think. The intruder has, breached the booking system, and then Fastbook noticed, 5 days later. That's pretty typical. And
Yeah.
5 days later is like the horses. Not only have the horses escaped, most of them have broken their legs, and one of the bodies washed downriver, which is how you knew that the horses had escaped.
There was a lot of these in Japan, for whatever. It was a French company that made the software, but I guess Japan was using a lot of the software, and a lot of people lost their credit card details.
In the same vein as the Elasticsearch thing, but probably not with Elasticsearch, betting giant BetVictor leaked all of its own internal systems passwords. How did they do that? They uploaded an internal document with the passwords to their internal systems to their help document system. Their internal knowledge base was on the internet as a publicly accessible knowledge base filled with answers to things.
This was one of
What's
those...
the password to this? And
Yeah.
Yeah, it was and not only the usernames and passwords, but they had the URL there too, just in case.
Yeah.
So, I don't think anybody got malicious access to this. Some researcher found it, and so
11 passwords in the Pwned Passwords data set offered by Troy Hunt's Have I Been Pwned? Which, if you haven't seen Have I Been Pwned, it's nice. Sorry. What were you going to say?
yeah, there's a lot of security stories this week.
There's so many leaks. There's so many leaks.
Just a leaky bucket in here. It actually might be a leaky bucket in here because I don't know if you guys can hear it, but there's actually quite a bit of thunder going over top.
And rain.
And rain, yeah. I've been trying not to pay attention. I want to rush out and look at it, but
Ticketmaster admits personal data has been stolen in hack attack. So this one is rogue JavaScript. So yeah, this one's exciting.
well, this was a one of those live chat services, and you're not supposed to run that on your actual payment gateway. And nobody told Ticketmaster that, I guess. At least that's their excuse. One thing we should mention, I don't think we preempted, this was the leak block. It was like 6 or 7 leaks in a row. Every story, the common thread is the word or the phrase third party. No one blames themselves. It's always third party.
Yeah.
And they're always passing the buck. If you're dealing with a third party, maybe be aware of that.
Well, having worked on a lot of projects, this on the payment gateway page, like when somebody is actually entering credit card details, you are not supposed to have any third-party JavaScript at all.
Oh, well, that's the third party's response was, what kind of moron put JavaScript on the payment gateway that access to the third-party site? That's like day one security. You don't do that.
Oh, well, there are tons of instances I can think of where it's like I've been directly ordered against my express objections to like, no, we need this tracking script on every page, even the payment gateway page, because we need to know if they complete the payment. And it's like, well, but if somebody compromises the GTM tag or the analytics tracking software or any of the other stuff, suddenly they can steal credit cards. Like, yeah, we don't care. Okay. Sounds good. Guess
Just
we'll go ahead and
put
do
this
that.
in email so that way we have a record of it. I'm gonna make another backup here.
Don't be like Ticketmaster. Don't put crap like GTM tags and chat scripts and crap like that on your payment page. Don't do that. You should know better than
the
that.
live chat trend. Let's talk about that for a second. 'Cause that's not something that people. It's 2018. If you design a decent navigation, most people don't need a live chat.
Unless they're elderly.
Yes, and you think there's a lot of people on Ticketmaster who are like 80 years old going to like a Leonard Skinner concert, like
Well, there's old people events.
Mike?
Old people are way into certain kinds of live shows, right? I mean, because a lot of those bands are still out there. And like with the Temptations, I think they're all dead, but there's still the Temptations. They're out there touring.
Wait, really?
I don't know if it's them exactly, but yeah, a lot of those, there might be like one surviving member that they roll out on the stage for 5 minutes in the beginning, and then a new crowd of people come out. And,
That'd be like the most down-tempo crowd to play to, too.
I saw that. There was like a major production of Rocky Horror, and they rolled Tim Curry out for the start of it, and it was so sad. Why did you make me think of that? That's depressing.
Now you can go stare out the window at the rain and think about that.
There's been another massive leak of law enforcement personnel data. So many police departments are unable to respond in an active shooter situation, according to this data set. So this federally funded active shooter training center has exposed the personal details of thousands of U.S. law enforcement officials.
yeah, this was a training program. When they figured out that you don't have an active shooter answer in your area, then they would give you this database. It's like, well, here's who you can call. And put together like a
task force,
an ad hoc SWAT team for an active shooter. And here's everybody's level of training. Here's their cell phone number and blah,
Don't
blah, blah.
upload that to Dropbox.
Yeah, so that got out.
Pro law enforcement tip: don't post that on the internet or like Facebook and be like, "We got this database. Anybody need anybody from it?" It's like, Have you recently gotten a pop-up or software on your computer that says all radio 4.27 portable? Bad news. You're gonna have to reformat. And that's because your computer basically is Typhoid Mary, and that's only the latest symptom.
You've got a rootkit. I don't know if reformatting is going to fix it. You got serious issues. Although they did admit that almost everybody who complained about this had downloaded OS activation cracks or game cracks. So you knew what you were getting into.
Well,
Don't swim in those waters.
When did the scene get so polluted with these posers? This is just terrible. It does a lot of really crazy stuff too. If the malware that monitors the clipboard detects a cryptocurrency address goes to the clipboard, it's replaced with another cryptocurrency address under their control. So like if you need to send somebody some crypto, you're going to send, and you just copy paste, you're not paying attention, you're going to end up sending the crypto to the wrong people. That's pretty insidious. I mean, there's like a million things here that's just terrible. So yeah.
Our viewers would never get hit with that though, right?
Security flaws disclosed in LTE. So this is your cell phone. Basically, if you're, China or Russia or something, this is the keys to LTE. You can take over LTE devices, like Stingray devices, that kind of thing. You can intercept web pages and do all sorts of stuff. Even, sort of defeating the encryption, not the encryption of the web page, but the encryption of the LTE standard by doing this. So this is not available to individuals or end users, but people that could afford to do this can totally do this. So, look. Redirect users to malicious websites. Why?
Why? You know why.
Oh, it's not feasible in the real world, but it kind of is, though. I mean,
Missed that part of the article.
if you look around DC, it's there's a lot of like Stingray type devices around Washington DC, and not all of them are run by our law enforcement agencies. Seems like a problem.
So many. This is the last one. If it loads. Oh, there it goes. This one's actually kind of interesting.
Thousands of Uber drivers are complaining of not being paid.
There's only 3 official instances, but there are claims that this has happened a lot more times.
So apparently con artists are getting a hold of Uber drivers' contact info, and then they're posing as Uber. They're calling drivers posing as Uber, getting the drivers to give them their password and also a PIN number or something sent via text message, and then they take over their account
verification notice,
change their payment details to be the attacker's account, and people don't notice for a week or two.
Yeah, because they get paid every Sunday, so like most people just wait till the Sunday, and then they realize, oh, I didn't get paid, and then I can't get into my Uber account, and which I was thinking, I don't know, I've never driven for Uber. Maybe someone can tell us in the comments. How often does Uber call you? It seems like everything would be done through the app.
Yeah, I don't think they're certainly not going to ask you your password.
Yeah.
So friendly reminder, if somebody's asking you for your password, it's probably a scam. You think Uber, Facebook and other stuff like that says that to you a lot in the messaging, like, we will never ask you for your password. We will reset your password, but we will never ask you for your password. I think Uber has that. I think they're going to have that after this change.
They'll probably add it, yeah, somewhere in the UX.
It's so easy to scam people with technology. It's really disappointing.
Well, I think what gets them is, you say they find out your information somehow. Well, they got your phone number because Uber facilitates that.
Yeah.
So they know your phone number. They know the address you're going to because they just set it up, and they know, and they say, "Oh, we need to cancel this ride." The scam is they're like, "Hey, we need to cancel this ride because it's a handicapped person and your vehicle is not equipped for that. So you need to give us your information so we can clear all this up in the system, so you don't get penalized for never picking this person up." I think that's what gets them.
Scammers. It's like the IRS. Like, you will be arrested unless you give us all your info right now.
There's no warrant for your arrest.
Because drivers aren't suckers.
They totally call you when there's a warrant for your arrest.
What have we got to look forward to for Friday?
Lots of nonsense.
We've got hardware news on Friday and science and robots, and there is so much nonsense this week.
There's nonsense, and there's quite a few AI stories as well.
It was really tempting to put all the leak stories in as nonsense because, there's not really a lot going on technology-wise this summer because it's summer and everybody's outside doing stuff, but good Lord, the data leaks. It's crazy.
We should have just done a rapid fire of that. Just, here's all the people who had leaks this week. Done.
Anybody that's working in web development or anything, I could hear their sphincters pucker over the internet.
You could hear it?
Yeah, they're going to be making some serious change. It was so bad. They're going to be making some changes right now. People are already, it's like, oh, you know what? It's probably a good idea for me to remove those trackers from the payment pages. I can hear it.
I'm glad you can hear it, because I don't think it's going to happen.
We're going to be reporting on it next week.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. All right, see you next week.
Bye.
Friday. Friday's not next week.
Bye.
Today's Friday, July 6th. They talk about Friday the 13th, but Friday the 6th is just as bad.
Is it?
Who's the killer that comes out on Friday the 6th?
It's Jason Voorhees' younger brother, 006 and a half.
Did he also die in the lake? You'd think they would have learned after the first time.
These are a lot of movie references that I don't know.
What? You don't know Friday the 13th?
I've never seen them. I never seen them.
I would think that even kids today would know Friday the 13th.
I'm familiar with the franchise, but I've never watched one.
Yeah, the story's great.
Is there much of a story?
Yeah, spoiler alert. But the first movie is not about Jason.
Oh.
Jason drowns in the lake, and the camp people are too busy fornicating and doing drugs to save him, and it's the mother. That's why he hates the campers.
Of course.
Because like, it's like if you have sex in a horror movie, you're going to get killed. That's why.
Well, I never knew that's where that trope came from.
Yeah.
Today I learned that's why people watch this program, for educational anecdotes like that.
First up, we've got hardware news and technology, and just like technology, as opposed to technology and policy, technology and government, and that kind of stuff.
Leaks everywhere.
Data leaks. Oh my gosh. Although the people that work professionally in the industry probably appreciate that, because it's like, oh, let me go check that thing
that I'm working on.
SD cards could soon hold 128 terabytes of storage. This is a clickbait headline. This is not it. They
didn't even try on this graphic even. I mean, look at that.
The cards support 128 terabytes of addressing, but that's like me saying my ZFS pool can totally store 128 exabytes of data. It's like it's not going to be that anytime soon.
Yeah, they talk about how we're not even at 2 terabytes, and how many years has it been? Several years they've been trying. Started in 2009.
Yeah. So
could be doing this. They also talk about 900 and some gigabytes per second or megabytes per second. What is it? 930 something.
Can't read.
Anyway, big and fast, but who knows when we'll see these? Maybe never.
The interface is probably going to PCI Express, and PCI Express 4.0 you could contemplate. 512 gig is what you can get now, which is not bad. And I'd say 1 terabyte's on the horizon, because again, stacking technologies and all this other sort of stuff. But the increased data density also means that these devices are going to be more fragile and more susceptible to things like, bit flips and other stuff. NAND flash with this kind of density, I mean, we are moving into an era where you've got, 4-level cells. But I think phase change memory and that sort of thing is when we're going to see these crazy data densities. So this is entirely clickbait headlines to get everybody excited about ultra capacity SD cards, and that's literally all this is.
They do talk about the necessity being the mother of invention, and we are getting into video formats that demand ultra storage, so maybe they'll be motivated.
I want raw uncompressed 8K. I want to be able to recreate exactly what the Censor was seeing in raw 8K. Why do you need that?
Just cause
YouTube's going to screw that compression one way or the other anyway. So
my Taylor Swift now. I need an 8K.
You do need Taylor Swift now at 8K. That's the only way to watch it. And full, 13.1 surround. Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
I think Google's new gaming platform is going to be at 8K. Google's planning a game platform that could take on Xbox and PlayStation. So, according to Kotaku, is that how you pronounce that?
Kotaku, yeah.
Kotaku sources. This just reeks of just no.
Well, I think, Ubisoft was talking about it, and then Microsoft and Sony sort of hinted at it, and now you're talking about Google. And I think what they're doing is they want, no matter the cost, no matter how bad the experience gets with crappy bandwidth, they want software as a service.
Yeah.
They're tired of you owning these games. That is not acceptable. And so it's going to be like 3D TV. Nobody wants it, but they're going to do everything they can to make it a thing. And the only way it's not going to be a thing is when nobody buys it.
When I first saw this, I kind of thought it was Google remaking Chrome boxes. So we have Chromecast and Chromebooks, but a lot of companies have tried the Android set-top box that you could play games on, and mostly those have been terrible or things have ended in disaster. I could see Google pushing that, because there's a lot of mobile games, and playing that on a TV could maybe be a thing, but most games are designed for touchscreen. It's really the only problem with that.
But also, mobile games are good when you're waiting to get your oil changed. They're not as good when you're relaxing at home and you have other choices.
Are you saying that I would not enjoy Pixel Dungeon on an 80-inch TV?
Well, I'm just saying there are better
Not the same way.
There are better formats of Pixel Dungeon than on Android, and on 80-inch TV you're going to have access to those. So yeah.
You could enter a whole new genre of game. What about I could play Diablo 2. What if I used my phone as a touchpad and I was playing Diablo 2 on an 80-inch touchscreen? Because my phone should totally be able to run Diablo 2 at this point, I would think.
But that's a more limited control method.
Hey, there's people playing PUBG on their phone. So.
Yeah, and that's wrong.
That is wrong.
It is a crime against humanity.
In an FPS on a phone, I'll never know.
I don't even think people should be playing Fortnite on console. That ain't right. Although I didn't include the story because it's kind of a ridiculous thing. But Xbox is going to start maybe allowing mouse and keyboard for the first time this year.
There are some accessories that will permit a mouse and keyboard, but it's not a great mapping of.
It's a hacky kind of thing. So these are going to be official Xbox mouse and
They
keyboard.
realize there's a way to make money off this. We should take it.
All the competitive players are going to be in for a world of hurt because controller, like the math has been done. Controller versus keyboard mouse for most of those games. It's good. Like controllers are good for Rocket League. Keyboard and mouse are good for games like PUBG, and that's just the way it is.
First-person shooters, you just need the accuracy of a mouse, I think.
Yeah. Another kind of exciting piece of hardware this week, maybe, is Microsoft's details the secret port pocketable Surface device in a leaked email. So this is a dual screen device, probably. That's what everybody thinks. And it's basically a pocket Surface that opens up and it's just one big screen with a pen.
Yeah, I like they're talking about how the hinge itself, when opened, would be pixels, which that seems incredible. I don't know how
I
they
would
would
love
do
to
that.
see if that was real.
There's a mock-up screenshot of it here. Yep. Now, I'm just going to tell you right now, there's another project from Microsoft when the iPad came out, and it was called the Microsoft Courier Tablet. It's from 2009, so we're talking 10 years ago, pretty much almost. You should check out videos of the Microsoft Courier Tablet because they imagined a tablet similar to this 10 years ago, and the thing that made that such an amazing piece of hardware was the software experience. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Windows 1803 and thinking it's been 10 years and Microsoft still hasn't figured out how to deliver a good software experience. So I think the hardware is going to be amazing. I think the software experience is probably going to be a dumpster fire.
Cool idea, though.
It is a cool idea. And the Microsoft Courier tablet isn't even like, it's almost like, wow, this is a really amazing, like this looks incredible. This absolutely looks incredible. Why don't we have this? Because somebody should have been working on this for the last decade. We still don't have it. Have you got a MacBook with the new butterfly key switches? Well, I've got some bad news. Those wear out really easily, and if there's like one tiny speck of dust in them. But finally, Apple has come out with a service program for those keyboards.
The thing about this that stands out to me is it's like, what service will I receive? Well, the tech will determine what level of service you need. So I wonder if a lot of them, it's like, oh, this is a little sticky. You don't qualify. Sorry, just go back home.
It gets stuck sometimes when I'm trying to hit the delete key and then it just deletes a bunch of stuff.
So stop deleting things.
Yeah, I have that problem for real at home right now, and I haven't bothered to replace my keyboard.
It really is amazing how much the keyboard has regressed on Apple laptops because the keyboard on modern Apple laptops is garbage.
Has anyone ever really liked their keyboards?
They've gone from like middling and okay to just terrible.
Like the Superflight keyboard, I don't
Yeah,
understand why anyone would choose that experience, really. But
I don't know. I've got an unusually flat keyboard on the Dell XPS 2 and 1. It's got almost twice as much travel distance as the Mac keyboard, but it's still not very much travel distance compared to other keyboards. But I mean, the Cadillac keyboard experience is probably the Surface Book on laptops because you got big keys with a lot of travel distance and then metal. So, yeah. Hackaday's got the world's smallest computer, probably. This giant thing in the picture is a grain of rice.
oh, I saw this. Someone posted this at the forum, I think.
But here's the
I
thing.
didn't see this particular article, but
There's an argument of all these little tiny computers are volatile. There is no storage. University of Michigan has the smallest computer ever that's non-volatile storage. So all these pretenders are like, hey man, we've got the smallest, but is it really? Is it really a computer if it can't store?
This one's got a sensor. It's got registers. Do registers count because it's an ARM processor?
No, because once you pull the power, it's done.
there's no RGB on it, so it's not a real computer.
That's what marketing would have us believe. You know they're adding RGB to cars now. Like I saw a car
I can see
commercial,
that.
and it was like, "Look, you can have the interior in any color of the rainbow." And it's like,
Oh, they did that.
They used to do that with like the underlighting.
Well, yeah, that's an aftermarket thing. But I remember the '05 Mustang GT. You could make your instrumentation panel any color you wanted. So that's been there for a while.
Neat.
Now, the big thing, have you seen those new headlights? The color changing LED headlights.
I've not seen those. Are they dramatically color changing?
Yes, they can project instructions for your driving, colored instructions,
Oh,
onto the
yes.
road.
I remember seeing this article, but I didn't realize it could change color too. I thought that was illegal to change your colors on your car.
Well, I imagine other people can see the colors, but mostly it's projecting it onto the road
Oh,
for you
okay.
to see.
Okay.
Neat.
It's only certain colors. Blue and red, I think, are definitely blue, because police.
I remember the Knight Rider Collectors Club of somewhere was bitching that they can't have the red sweeper on the front in some states because of state law.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's a law here, actually. You can't have anything that looks like an emergency vehicle.
No, I don't think the Knight Rider car looks anything remotely like an emergency
But
vehicle.
someone, if it's dark at night and you see someone coming up
Yeah,
behind
you see, changing red lights on the front of a car. I can see that.
Hiding in plain sight, thermal camouflage moves one step nearer. Why do we need this?
in case the predator comes.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious for military applications.
Yeah, look, there's a picture of the predator in this article. It's like they knew. That's the use case.
I don't think it's as much for the predator as it is enemies.
Predator.
I think the article author was asking the same question I was asking. It's like, military. It's like, no, predator. We're going to stop the predator.
It's pretty common these days for everybody on the battlefield to have some kind of thermal imaging, because it's not that expensive when you're talking about military terms. This is the problem with this, though. I mean, it seems cool they show the image there, but you need a current. Current has to be flowing through this stuff to get this effect. So this is a battery-operated suit. It doesn't exist yet, but if it ever does, you're probably not going to be able to get it wet very much or submerge it. And
It's almost like a cloth sort of thing. You could lay it over.
it's
clothes and things.
graphene on top of gold, which also raises the question of how expensive are these going to be. Yeah.
I could not, there are other solutions for rendering something thermally invisible, but they mainly involve keeping the heat actually inside another area, so it doesn't really show up as a hotspot.
Well, yeah, there's other ways, like coating yourself with mud.
That doesn't work. I saw the episode of Mythbusters where they tried that, and it works for a little while, but then it doesn't work.
Arnold showed it
Yeah,
worked.
I think Arnold would disagree. It worked excellently.
He's alive.
Yeah.
He became the governor.
The what?
Governor.
Are you having a strong?
Oh, so I was strong.
Bloomberg Businessweek says the quest to find nuclear fuel on the moon. So this is an article about going to the moon to get helium-3, because we can use that in fission. And there's enough helium-3 on the moon for 200 to 500 years of powering everything that there is on Earth.
I read this article and I was like, that's BS. And then I actually read the details in the article and was like, oh.
But most importantly, this is a story about India doing all that, not the U.S. And India has a knack for going into space on a budget, because that's where you want to cut corners, right? I wonder if they really are good at budgeting, or if we just spend way more than we should on these types of projects.
I think that we spend a lot of money on these projects to make sure somebody doesn't die, and it's a totally different set of math if you're going to send a robot or something to the moon to mine helium-3.
Well, I think this has to be a manned mission. They also they talk about, you're going to need to bring back so many hundreds of tons. How the hell are you going to get hundreds of tons off the surface of the moon?
There's not that much gravity.
Listen,
Yeah,
we will
but-
build all the technology and then ask those kinds of questions later when we go to launch it.
Even if there's not a lot of gravity, you're going to have some serious thrusters, and you got to take them with you. That's going to be a big project.
What if you use the helium-3 in some sort of fusion-powered thrusters?
We're like 100 years away from even refining it to the point of using it in a reactor.
The Verge has an amazing article on this new robot stunt double.
You got to scroll down and show that, because it is really cool looking.
The robot can, so imagine a robot that's clothed. This is something that Grant Imahara has been working on. The Mythbusters guy? This is what he's been doing for the last year.
Good for him. He's making a new Buster is what he's making.
Yeah, I mean, this is like 3 steps away from the Terminator.
Wasn't that what Buster was? That was the name of the crash test dummy. That's what it was doing.
So this is really cool.
It is really cool. I could watch that GIF all day. It's very satisfying.
Well, there's even better ones if you watch the video. I mean, these things are really cool when they, spin around and do all that stuff. And all of that is laser guided. So they're like firing a laser at this guy while he's in the air and controlling him.
It's like a cat. Just
Kind of like that, yeah. And so these are, when you go and watch the stage shows at Disney, when the really dangerous stunts are going to be these robots jumping around doing stuff.
wow.
So like the robot will fly through the air dressed up as Wolverine or whatever, and then land off
And then someone else
screen,
gets up. Yeah.
and then the actor's going to run out.
That's amazing. Although it makes me sad that Disney is funding this because Disney, but
You can sort of tell that they're tailoring the park experience now to be with all the IPs that they've gobbled up. Because all these superheroes need to jump around and do stuff, fly.
We can't just have them walk around the park.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not princesses.
nicely done, Grant Imahara. Good job.
He's like, man, that means a lot coming from you, Wendell.
No, makes me sad. It's fine. A team of AI algorithms just crushed humans in a complex computer game. So the complex computer game in question is Dota 2.
And they were, the article described them as amateur players, and I was like, does that mean that they are like bronze scrubs or?
Well, they're probably, just below pro. But the cool thing about this is it's not one AI playing Dota.
Yeah.
It's 5 AI. Is it 5-on-5?
Yes.
Yeah.
5 AIs, and they're only allowed to communicate in game.
Yeah.
With the text. So
They learned.
yeah, it's not like they have some sort of mastermind AI guiding them all. They're actually learning, and they have no more visibility than another Dota 2 player would.
I like one just being like, stop feeding. Oh, they're just getting toxic to each other.
You think there is can the AI measure when one AI is being shittier than all the other ones, and do they compensate for that?
I would think so, because it mentioned that teamwork was a big component of it.
Oh yeah, and you have to try and double team and
Yeah.
take the good fights. So that's interesting.
I'm going to feel really bad for the one human player. It's like there's going to be a version of this where there's 1 or 2 human players and the rest of the players are all AI. And the AIs are going to be like, what is wrong with that other player? It's like,
I also wonder, would this be a way to hyper train for Dota 2? Like you and 4 AIs, and you learn how they play?
I guess if they get to be a higher level of Dota play, that might be an option.
Yeah, right now it still says amateur, so
But
who knows what level that actually is.
I've played Dota 2 maybe a little bit, I think, but I think a big part of that game is knowing how to upgrade and buy the items and stuff. So I imagine the AI is really good at that.
Scary. China is launching a high-tech bird drone to watch over its citizens. So
It says high tech, but look at it. I mean, it looks like the most basic little thing in the world.
I mean, if I saw that flying overhead and I wasn't paying attention, I just
Yeah.
out of the corner of my eye, I probably wouldn't think anything of it.
I wonder how noisy it is, though.
They said they actually do make it look like it's flapping, but again, it's like,
Yeah, you see
how
that-
noisy could that possibly
Well, you see the
be?
little
Yeah.
the little track there, so those wings definitely are going to flap. I mean, it's not going to be a realistic bird motion because those are kind of wavy, and this is just static up and down.
at 300 feet, I don't think that you would be able to tell a realistic bird motion from, just typical pigeon nonsense.
But
We're turning into the Hunger Games with the Mockingjays.
But the thing about this is, it's like someone's announcing this, so there was a press release, I guess. But it's like, hey, yeah, we're spying on you, but we're hiding the fact that we're spying on you. But we're telling you that we're hiding the fact
Trust no
that we're
birds.
spying on you.
So-
So you just always be paranoid. That's the lesson.
Yeah, my takeaway from that was any of those pigeons that you see in the park could be spying on you. So you need to be on your best behavior at all times.
And they are
Your
talking
social
about,
score up.
yeah, they're talking about linking this into the social score. So you never know when the facial recognition AI is tracking you, whatever you're doing with the pigeons.
And you might be thinking, but do we really need this? Is this a thing that we actually need? And the answer is yes, because the AI is learning to be human doctors in neuroimaging. And so, yeah, it's the same. We need the pigeons in order to study the brain scans. How hard is that to understand?
Pigeons.
This was brain
kinda
tumors and hematoma. And what was the other ones were lung tumors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a different story.
The AI's won on the lung tumors. Now this was 2-0. I think the doctors took a round on the lung tumors, but the brain tumors, the robots are totally in control.
Again, pigeons, if pigeons, then brain tumors. How hard is that?
I don't think we should ever let you practice medicine. I think that's all I'm learning here.
I wonder if Google could have when Google released TensorFlow to the world. Not that they're using TensorFlow for this, but when Google released TensorFlow to the world, I wonder if they contemplated AI pigeons and AI, medical scans and AI social credit score, whatever's.
I think that's all just a happy byproduct. That's really the dystopian use cases. But then somebody's like, oh, you know what? We could use this for good, too.
Well, here's the robot that we're sending to space. This robot with artificial intelligence is about to invade
Look at
space.
his little face.
Yeah.
He looks So neutral.
Well,
I don't trust him.
They talk about how he's designed sort of to be not upset anybody.
Yeah, he reads the
Yeah.
room and like his face will display whatever emotion like
And
it
he-
feels is in the room.
He doesn't have any sort of arms or even edges because they wanted to make him totally harmless. He just floats.
There was an episode of Doctor Who about this where literally the robots were like, "Oh, you're unhappy? I'm going to vaporize you because then you won't be unhappy."
And his name is Simon with the C.
Oh, I read it as this is my issue again. I read it as
We
Kaiman.
know. That's why we're both staring at you.
I read it as Kaiman because in Elvish, when you see a C in English, it's actually standing for the K sound.
Yeah, well, they don't speak Elvish on the International Space Station.
Apparently, English is the first language on the International Space Station.
I don't know. Actually, this could be the very first protocol droid. I mean, this maybe could be speaking Elvish because that's
But
what protocol droids do.
another thing,
Megalananin.
I like about the story is he was designed by this Gert guy, and he's gonna be like Gert's little companion on the space station. But when Gert comes home, somebody else inherits him, and so are you always gonna feel like the second wife there?
He never smiles around. His bland little robot face is always frowning.
America's largest supermarket chain is launching a fully driverless delivery
Oh.
system.
I'm so
I'm
excited.
excited.
Yeah, this is gonna be amazing.
I almost peed my pants reading that.
Kroger is arguably the least evil national supermarket chain, I would say.
I don't really know much about
Perhaps.
Kroger's corporate structure.
Perhaps maybe not evil at all.
I don't know. You certainly don't have the headlines that a Walmart does. People not big fans of Walmart.
They're not terrible.
But this thing is going to come to your house, and you have to unload it on your own. That's maybe, but I don't see a better way of doing that. Like, how else would you deal with that?
Unless you'd have to hire personnel for it, and then it's like, is that cost effective at that point?
But it's
Probably
funny
not.
because they talk about how they will have personnel in the beginning because it's like the whole Uber thing. You got to have a human being in there. But they are instructed to, under no circumstance, help you unload your groceries. They'll just ignore you because they're supposed to train you to do it yourself.
Is that like the self-checkout?
But sometimes you can get a tip if you take groceries out to a car.
Oh, yeah.
Really? They allow that?
Elderly
They
people.
technically did not. But some elderly people, like the grocery store I worked at, they were very adamant. Like they would shove $1 in your hand and be like,
A whole dollar?
well, sometimes it was more. It just depended
Did
on the old
they
person.
stick it in your garter?
I think there was one guy who got $15 from a little old lady.
Wow.
She just shoved it in his hand, and he was like, "Oh, but we're supposed to do this. I get paid." And she was like, "No, take it," and then ran away into her car.
She sped away and took out the mirrors and
She
three
threw
adjacent.
money out the window as she went.
My question about this, though, if you scroll back up there and take a look at that, it's so small. Like, sometimes I'll not go to the grocery store for a couple of weeks, and I'll buy a lot of stuff.
You just send more than one.
I guess, but I'm thinking that to make this viable, you're going to have to do 2-3 deliveries per run, right? Like a pizza delivery guy.
Yeah, I
could.
would think. Yeah, because look, it's got different compartments in the picture.
But that's pretty small, is what I'm saying.
I think that so think about like high margin items. It's going to be like fresh fruit and like fresh produce and fresh
Milk.
meat and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you could get daily deliveries, like if you're telling me that there's going to be one of these delivery robots outside my house at like 7:30 in the morning with fresh stuff for me to make breakfast and dinner that day, that would be really exciting. So
Well,
I'm going to
let's
get
see.
fresh fruit that morning.
But that's the other drawback. There's not going to be enough of them for everybody to get 7 a.m. delivery.
Well, I mean
It's
that's
going to be a window.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is that is going to be like for the upper echelon of the thing, and they're going to make more money that way because there are already services that have like that premium delivery where they will like drop random crap at your house at 7:00 in the morning, like organic juice or whatever, and this will be the cheaper version of that.
But also think about the flip side of that. If they run these 24 hours a day and they're fully autonomous, when you stagger home drunk and it's 2 a.m. and you're dying for a box of donuts,
or more alcohol, as the case may be.
or if you're high, there's a lot of applications there for bad decisions late at night, and you don't have to leave the house.
I see no dark timeline in this future.
yeah, this just seems like this is just rewarding my laziness. I
Well, there
want
is-
it 100%.
There is one dark timeline that you're not thinking of, which is like the shut-in, and the Kroger van keeps coming back with its groceries still in it. And they're like, "Oh, is that someone who's never left the house and now has died? And the Kroger van was their only link to the outside world?
That's a small use case, though. It's an outlier.
Well, could get bigger as it goes.
I think that level of darkness is coming to the banking industry. So Germany's second largest bank, Commerzbank, is exploring the use of artificial intelligence to write analyst reports.
Yeah,
There's a headline behind this ad, but I can't show it to you. Because
Listen, we need a vacuum, so.
There it is. The bigger story might be how easy it is to write bank analyst earnings analysis, because they say they're already 75% there with AI. They just need to get the last 25%, and this thing can crank out earnings reports just like a real banker.
There's some bankers just sweating right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. They won't give these reports to the general public. It's just for internal bank use.
What do you think the exploit is for that algorithm? The same way that people are exploiting the YouTube popularity algorithm with, like, you know, the excited face thumbnails, and Google is running experiments to try to deal with that. What do you think the answer for that is in the banking industry?
I think it's going to be, well, not for the banking industry, but for the companies themselves. Remember in the early days of the web when you could put white on white text when they were just doing the keyword crawling, and you could put, like, you know, salacious words in the bottom of your website and get your site ranked up. I think a lot of these companies and their, you know, earnings profiles and stuff can start sneaking in little keywords that the Commerzbank AI loves to see.
Maybe like that tea company that changed their name to include the word cryptocurrency.
Oh,
or
blockchain. Yeah, blockchain could really do it.
The blockchain tea company, and all of a sudden their stock price went through the roof, and that was the only change.
Well, their tea's better.
Well, our inaugural story for the nonsense section is this story from Engadget, which is Pornhub has added closed captions for viewers with hearing loss.
I suspect this was done probably for compliance issues, but maybe they really do care about deaf people.
Is there compliance for porn?
I would think so.
No, I don't
for
think
all of
there
the
is.
web. Anything that's like, it's not really a public service,
but
I guess. But
you can't. I don't think an AI can accurately do this for porn, right? Because a lot of it's nonverbal.
You know, my assumption was that it was AI as well, but I don't think it was.
It wasn't. No, it's actually like someone went through.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think an AI could do it because it's a lot of, like, grunting and it's like wet, sloppy noise. You know, I don't think an AI is going to figure that one out. So yeah, someone sat down with how many hours of pornography and transcribed. The other service they talked about in that story was they do. For the reverse, for blind people, they do a service where someone is just describing what's going on the screen. What a great job! Can you
like
imagine?
the people who write like the weird.
Yeah, except you're watching porn and just relaying that to a blind person.
I don't know.
And they claim they sort of did that again as maybe a stunt, you know, because they love stunts, Pornhub. And that reporter was like, I wanted to see, is anybody actually... And they had hundreds of thousands of views. The blind ones did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's I don't. The only thing I can think of is a bit that Jeff Dunham does, who's a ventriloquist, about a school for the deaf that came to see the ventriloquist.
Oh.
Well, 4chan did that. You know, the Taylor Swift did a contest about where she should do her
charity concert in school,
and they sent her to a school for the deaf.
That actually worked out pretty well in the end. Like, she handled that like a champ. So.
Well, listen, they didn't give her own television network for nothing.
Swift TV.
Families earning $117,000 a year now qualify as low income in the San Francisco Bay Area of California.
Would buy you a mansion. Like, if you made that much money here, you could buy half of Eastern Kentucky. Maybe not that much, but
I don't think so. But yeah, and this is, if you're thinking, why are you telling us this story? It's because of the tech workers.
64%.
Yeah, the Silicon Valley tech workers make so much money, but they don't take very much home after all of their bills because
real estate.
Not only real estate, but the service industry's there and everything is just it's ridiculous. It's like another world.
This article brought up something that was interesting too, where they're like, the issues that, you know, it's fine if people want to move, but the issues that it's making people like who are vital to the city, like teachers, firemen, policemen, like all those people are leaving, and then soon it's just going to be people in the tech industry, and then you don't really have a city anymore.
Well, they have to commute.
Yeah.
And that's
We don't need firemen, but we do need that hipster that's got that app on the App Store.
Yeah. Well, he's, if there's a fire breaks out, he's going to be one of the first ones to die. So
I think that whole scene is going to eat itself eventually. It's going to be a dark day.
Are you saying that San Francisco is going to be the new Detroit?
I don't know about the new Detroit.
That thumbnail looked like that.
I think the, like the government policies, they're so crazy. And then you don't have the salt of the earth people. When the shit goes down, something terrible is going to happen there.
The headline on this story just doesn't do this story justice. So Polish charity gets a huge phone bill thanks to a stork. So what happened here is they put a GPS tracker on a stork because they wanted to see what would happen. And so it went to another country. It went to like the Sudan or something.
The last place they saw it was in like the Nile River Valley.
Yeah, and so like this GPS reporter tag thing, it turns out, was basically a cell phone with a SIM card. So somebody took the SIM card out of the GPS stork tracker thing and put it in their phone and then started making all kinds of calls and doing stuff with it because it was a SIM card.
I mean, kind of props to that guy.
Yeah. It shows that sort of African pragmatism where it's like, oh, here's a cool piece of technology. We could figure out what this is. And it's like, who owns it? And it's like, nope, let's break this up. Pull that SIM card out. I know what this is. I know what I can do with this.
Oh, hell, man. You just strapped... You think they were like... There was a moment where it's like, what the hell did they strap this to a stork for?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's just like just pure pragmatism. It was like, well, that's strapped to a stork. Let me use it.
$2,700 US of long distance calls. And they must have called their family and said they won the lottery.
I imagine that had to be international calls, right?
Yeah.
They were probably calling the family in America or back wherever the stork came from. It's like, dude, you're not going to believe this.
What a great way to run your terrorist operations, too. It's like, we'll just send the SIM card out on a stork.
Yeah, it's like NSA meeting. Who are we looking for? It's a stork, sir. The stork is... This airstrike was called in by a stork.
If you were thinking you were going to escape this week's episode of the Level 1 News without hearing anything about Elon Musk, you were sadly mistaken.
Oh, I left out all the stuff about the tents because
we kind of did cover that.
It's not even worth. But yeah, there's like, I think this month. Oh, this is the new month.
July now. Yeah.
So he should be doing 5,000 a week by now, right?
Yep.
Is this
by
officially this week? I don't know. I don't think he's going to make it.
Well, this story is not about any of that. This story is about a unicorn farting. From Newsweek, of all places. Yes, Newsweek.
I don't know this is the exact artwork, but basically...
No, this is something that guy made after the fact.
Yeah. Elon Musk, I guess, was using a piece of artwork that didn't belong to him. Someone found out about it and called him out on Twitter saying they were the creator of the original artwork and that he should pay for it. And Musk was like, he just can't leave well enough alone. He has to tweet back. And it's like, maybe you should just not tweet back, maybe message him privately, tell him to get in touch with a lawyer.
Well, he put the picture of the unicorn farting in as an Easter egg in some of the tweets and other stuff that they've been doing.
Yeah, and the article said that the guy, the original artist, had a lawyer friend. He was like, hey, you think I should sue him? And the lawyer was like, no, I don't think you should do that. But he's going to do it anyway. He's trying to get some kind of settlement from us.
Anyway.
But I think I hate to defend Musk. I'm not a fan of his, but it seems like it was a somewhat harmless and I don't think he did it on purpose. I think he believed that someone at Tesla drew that.
Yeah,
and that it was
that's
his
the way
to
it
use.
seems to.
Well, one of his employees tweeted it at him or something. Yeah, he tweeted something to that effect, but he since deleted the tweet. So,
I mean, if he knew it was from an artist and didn't want to pay him, and then put it in his software and stuff that's kind of crappy. But also, do you really want to sue someone over a drawing of a unicorn farting?
If that someone is a billionaire, I think the answer most people will give you is yes. But I think here's the thing about Musk: if Musk really, really, really wanted to do everything he could to help Tesla and all of his other endeavors and do the best for his shareholders and all that, the absolute best thing he could do right now is delete his Twitter. But he will never do that.
He needs to do that so he can get back to work.
He needs to do it because it never works out for him.
People do love to hate on Musk.
Well, he just tweets so much, just constantly, and about the most inane stuff. It's what do you do all day?
He craves the attention, and that's why he'll never do it, even though it's the best thing for him.
all over the place, and I don't follow him.
No, you can't miss it.
Tech elites are recreating Burning Man inside their living rooms.
This was an interesting. Whoever wrote this article has very poetic language, which I appreciated.
And sees this as much more than it is.
Yeah.
But this is basically some hipster girl who, if you're rich enough, will come to your house and put on a little hippie show and let you participate.
Yeah, like a drum circle, you know.
And they talk
sing,
about
talk.
they talk about Musk being part of one of these. So it's like, can you make me feel like a real boy, please?
Yeah.
And it seems like she can a little bit. So she's making a ton of money doing private shows for these
Her whole
rich
thing
assholes.
is like, you know, rich people, they're at a different level, and like they don't get to relax as much. So like me and like a bunch of other people, we just hang out and we have the drum circle and we sing and we talk about like our feelings and very weird article.
This is like, you can't, when you're living in a community with these people, you can't be a cop or a teacher, like, you know, in that other article. There's those kinds of jobs, you're screwed. But you can prey on them in a variety of ways. And this is a perfect example because they have no calibration with the real world.
As I was looking over this, the description, like the flowery language description of this, the poetic language as you called it, reminded me of I think the next to the fifth season of Arrested Development, where they're all out in the desert in like in the dirt dome with George Sr. And it's like nobody that's ever watched Arrested Development has any idea what I'm talking about, but it is literally that.
Yeah, like it's a hippie commune kind of thing, but it's mobile. Like it just goes with the girl. The author of the article kept describing like her eyes sparkle and light up when she talks about how she's fleecing these rich tech entrepreneurs. Like,
yeah, they light up because they're reflecting all those gold coins that they're paying
all
her
those
with.
bitcoins. She's got the little bees in her eyes.
Krista, what do you think about our next story?
This is hilarious.
I want to find the picture because
I couldn't find a picture of it. I didn't bother looking it up in
there
space.
it is.
Oh, there it is. I missed that.
this is graffiti. This
Go
is
down. They can't see.
They can't see. Yeah, it's not no BS. There you go.
It's a dry lake bed in Australia, and someone has made this wonderful piece of graffiti, which I'm trying to avoid demonetization.
Well, now, I couldn't tell. It's hard to tell, but especially, you know, looking at this screen, but it looks like they might have even gone so far as to make a few extra little bits of like ejaculate there at the end. But it's so discolored, it's hard. But I think there are. Yeah. That's incredible.
That's it's something. I'm blown away by the things people do on like Google Maps, or in this case for satellite imagery. Like how many hours?
Well,
you can see this from space.
Here's the payoff, though. You got into Newsweek.
The article says that no artist has come forward.
But
you are the artist.
They talk about how in Australia and New Zealand, carving penises into things with, you know, like with lawns and stuff is a lot of people are doing it.
A lot of people are bored in
a
those
lot
places.
of
There's a lot of land,
a lot of
I guess.
adolescents, because that was very common around middle school with the boys and stuff that I knew.
But we know, I think it's the population density is low. They got a lot of land. They got a lot of time. Why not?
Our next story comes to us courtesy of the BBC. A Wisconsin man has been injured after upskirting shoe camera explodes. The most disappointing thing about this article is that the man was not charged because he was never actually able to take any pictures before his camera exploded.
Well, he also turned himself in. So I guess he was doing this, and then...
Well, the doctor convinced him.
Yeah, he wasn't... Wait, his doctor?
Yeah, he had to go to the hospital because his foot blew up. And he couldn't come up with an excuse. What is your excuse? Why did you have this volatile battery?
I thought it was his clergy.
Oh, no, yeah, you're right. He went...
It wasn't a doctor. It was he went to his priest and confessed, and the priest was like, "You should turn yourself in."
What I mean, you talk about, priests hearing the worst kind of confessions. How do you moderately reply to that?
Well, he's like, "You need to turn yourself in," and the guy did, and the police station was like, "Well,
there was no crime. He didn't do anything wrong. Strapped a battery to his foot like a moron." But that is now. Here's what I don't understand about the upskirt phenomenon. What's your excuse for sticking your foot between their legs? Maybe if you're on a bus or something, but it seems like that would be a red flag if a guy's like, if his knee's up your butt.
Anyone gets close to me in public, that's like, get the fuck off. Like, I don't know. You don't need to be in my bubble. Like,
maybe with I'm thinking mass transit or really crowded streets or something. But still, it seems like it would be difficult to get that shot. Maybe that's part of the game, right?
I guess. I don't know. I feel like none of the images would even be quality. So
Those of you in our comments who are upskirt photographers, fill us in on...
What do you look out for different kinds of battery technologies? Is one battery technology safer than another battery technology for those types of pastimes?
Don't tell that guy though.
National Geographic says that delusions of infestation aren't as rare as you'd think. So apparently a lot of people think that there are insects living under their skin.
2.7%, which...
That seems high.
Seems real high. Yeah. People think that there are things crawling under their skin, and it's like so serious that they will tear parts of their body off to take into the doctor to be like, here, I captured some of the bugs. And it's like,
the doctor's like, there's nothing here.
yeah,
bro.
this is just cartilage. You shouldn't be removing this.
You need this.
Yeah.
This is a thing.
They talk about one guy who dug a hole through his septum because he thought they were in his nose, and now he talks with a whistle.
So I feel like the photography on this article, if you, I'm not going to put it on the camera. You can just go click through there.
And stuff.
Yeah, it's going to trigger you if you're one of those people.
I feel like the article author is like 2.7%, huh? Let's test that.
Yeah, because it's like when someone starts talking about like lice or something like that, you start to get that itchy feeling in your scalp.
Oh, I think this is way different than that.
Oh yeah, but even just like having the pictures up on the screen there, it's like, ugh.
But they did talk to a woman who had sort of gotten through it, and they had convinced her that she didn't have the bugs, but she still kind of felt like she had the bugs. And her quote was like, you have to laugh, because if you didn't, you'd be screaming. And you can just imagine, she knows it's not real, but the bugs are still there,
Our last story is not really funny at all.
It's ironic.
It is kind of ironic.
It's kind of dark.
A Japanese blogger has been stabbed to death after an internet abuse seminar. So there was this Japanese blogger that was giving a talk literally about how to de-escalate and resolve conflict online, who was stabbed by somebody that they had a long time conflict with. So cybercrime expert Kenichiro Okamoto reportedly killed by a man who abused him online.
And this is not that uncommon. Of course, we just had here the shooting at the newspaper. It's very common for people to feel like they have a personal relationship with bloggers or journalists or people on TV or whatever, YouTubers, and get this idea that they're the best of friends, and then they get a response from them that they don't like, and it doesn't meet that expectation that shouldn't.
That idea in their head.
Yeah, and then they become very violent. So
I don't really know how you de-escalate that, because I mean, it's not logical. You can't speak logic into that.
There was a seminar on that.
Well, yeah, apparently it wasn't very effective.
Apparently he didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And this guy, it talked about how he'd been for years he'd had this sort of weird twisted relationship with this blogger.
Well, can confirm there are a lot of messed up people on the internet.
Yeah. Check out some of ours at forum.level1.com.
There are a lot of people that have an extraordinary amount of free time and so it's going to be, I don't think we'll follow up on the story, but I will probably follow up on this to find out more about the attacker, because it's like, did the attacker, I mean, clearly they were not there mentally, but this is also Japan, not America.
I think a big part of it also is a lot of people who've got nothing going on in life get this sort of online persona in life going on. And they talk about how this guy tweeted right before he turned himself in, saying that he was going to turn himself in. So, social media, not for everybody.
manlystubbles@gmail.com.
Social media pro tip: nothing that somebody might say or blog about is worth stabbing them over. They might be a big asshole, but it's still not worth stabbing them.
Or sending death threats to their kids at preschool.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of stories like this week.
And yet our leaders are encouraging us to do exactly that.
Oh yeah, there was what was it? It was I was trolling. That's so ridiculous. Well, we've made it through another week.
Kind of a somber note to end on, but that's what it is.
Well, let's not forget what really matters about this week, which is that the USA is and has always been number one.
It was the 4th of July this week. We had a holiday. There was a day, theoretically, we didn't have to work maybe because it was a national holiday.
We probably all will work.
We probably all worked anyway.
Or we might go to the gun range because we got a new gun this weekend.
Ooh. All right. See you.
Bye.